Podmortem would like to thank Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Original Cinematic is an independent production company that has made it their mission to create, produce, and promote films that are inclusive, honor women, promote the LGBTQIA+ community, and provide prominent positions and roles to POC actors and filmmakers, and promote the films of marginalized and underrepresented populations. These are all things that are extremely important to our podcast as well.
Original Cinematic is currently accepting scripts and treatments. Both William and Xxena Rush are also available via email or Zoom to discuss writing and provide input and resources to all aspiring writers free of charge. Their information will be made available in the show notes. There may be delays due to a hectic schedule and all projects being read on a first-come, first-served basis, but everything will be read and responded to. William Rush has individually produced numerous projects, including Pack is Here, Before, The Cottage, The Winemaker, and Day by Day. Their award-winning film Group premiered and was celebrated at multiple film festivals as well as screenings both in person and via Zoom that was graciously made available to us and our patrons.
Original Cinematic has many exciting projects on the horizon. Their next film, Immersion, has been completed. The award-winning Sweetener is in development. Fetish begins shooting in September, and Encore will begin next spring. Their documentary, Women in Conversation, is slated for a September release, and we are looking forward to each and every one of them. It is truly an honor to partner with Original Cinematic, and we can't thank them enough for their contribution to our show. And now, back to our regularly scheduled program.
Salutations! Welcome to Podmortem. I'm Reneé Hunter-Vasquez, joined as always by my co-host, my husband, and my brother.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
Hi, I'm Travis Hunter-Sayapin.
This week, we're recording live from the last Roundup Rolling Grill, discussing the 1986 slasher sequel, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This film was directed by Tobe Hooper and written by L.M. Kit Carson. The success of the 1974 horror classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, guaranteed another installment, but it was Hooper's main mission to showcase the black comedy that he felt was missed in the original film. So with the return of classic characters and the introduction of new quirky ones, this film leans heavier into the comical side of this cannibalistic tale, while still honoring impressive practical effects. Despite extensive and constant rewrites, dropped plot points, and abandoned character arcs, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 remains a cult favorite among many horror fans. This film was suggested to us by friends of the show, Carrie Grayson, Spooky Kitsch 13, Ricky Perez, Daniel Mahoney, Megan M., Hannah, Lisa Misfit, Stephen Junius, Jim Portant, and Seth Schaff. We want to thank them all for their support as well as this suggestion. So, what did you guys think of The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 the first time you saw it?
So I don't remember the exact time I first watched it because I was a kid. So there's a part of this movie that I always remembered. I was never sure if it was like a later installment, but I was almost positive it was the second movie. Covering it for the show, it's most definitely this movie. So I can say as a child, I didn't understand, maybe because I was too young, I was a kid, what was going on, but I just remember I didn't enjoy it. I didn't know what, this wasn't the Leatherface that I knew, so okay. Watching it for the show, I think I feel the same way. I think maybe a little more strongly because I understand and I'm disappointed. And maybe it's that. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
That's somehow worse.
Yeah, no.
You're in dad mode.
Yeah, no, it's a lot worse. I didn't find a lot, if any, pleasure out of this. I was confused, very annoyed. I didn't know how to feel sometime. Like, honestly, it was it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
Yeah.
So you want to be like, yeah, it's fucking Leatherface, sorry family, whatever. And, but
yeah.
this was a different take. And dark comedy is a weird title to have for this. I don't even know if I would say that. But yeah. I will get more into it.
Yeah.
We'll talk over the next several hours, I'm sure.
Sure as well. I do want to ask, and it might just be me, and I'm very late to the party or whatever, but it took me watching this film to be like, oh, Sawyer.
Oh!
Okay.
That's why.
That's good.
That's why they're the Sawyer family.
That's good.
But that aside, the first time I watched this film was for the show to cover it.
Right.
And so the only thing that I had ever really heard about it was its reputation, its cult status, and talking to JP about his childhood experiences watching it.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those that I kind of already had in my head, like, okay, this is going to be very different from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I know that going in. I count on it. And still, I was absolutely flabbergasted.
Yeah.
This is so different from the first film.
Yeah, and the poster for this movie.
Right.
It's the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. But even having all of that in my mind, I still was like, this is literally just everything. And again, I don't want to sound bad. Everything that I love about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 74,
Yeah.
they're like, let's go a different way with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, I will say, is very admirable because you very easily could just make the same film again and clean up.
Right.
But there is a creative courage in doing something so different.
True.
I just feel that the direction that they went to is just very, very much kind of aggressively not for me.
Fair.
But that's not to say that there were zero things that I appreciated.
Of course.
I think that this film, I like our final girl.
Yeah.
I think she's pretty good. I think that there is a sequence as far as the production design is concerned.
Right.
Towards the end that is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I really like the way that they light certain scenes. I think that all of the actors are incredibly committed to the characters they're playing.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that that is something to praise because they are on all the time.
Yeah.
That's fair. That is true.
I think the movie, this is going in the other way. It's very loud. Which I think is a very polite way to put it.
Your dad mode, your grandpa mode.
I think that I just want to say I understand watching it
Right.
why so many people love it.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because this is one of those films that if you are in, you are in.
Yes.
And if you vibe with the comedy and the kind of things that they're doing, these very quirky characters, as you said,
Yes.
I can absolutely see this being like, oh, I need to return to this. This is heavy rotation.
Right,
sure.
Right.
But I think that coming at this film, the ages that we are now, having not had that kind of growing up with it, or maybe just simply just not vibing with it.
Yeah.
Right.
It was not for me, and I really wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's great that so many people do love it.
I unfortunately agree with both of you. I went into this with a complete open mind. I knew that tonally it was going to be very different. I was not super familiar with Chop Top, but I was aware of his reputation. I was prepared for that, for it to be sillier, for it to be more over the top. But we still have Tobe Hooper.
Yeah.
We have Tom Savini.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy Bill Moseley. I was like, that. I know what I'm getting myself into. Look at the fucking poster, as we said. I know that this is not going to be like the first one, and that's fine. I, have been known to dabble in some trash, lovingly using the term trash. That's fine. You know what I mean? For me, I hold the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre in such reverence. It's going to be tough to follow anyway.
Right.
So I'm not looking at this like, oh, maybe it'll be as good as I know it's not going to be as good as the first one. I'm willing to take it for what it is, go on this journey, see the story, spend time with this fucked up family. I just was pretty disappointed because I don't know if I mentioned this is my first time watching it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, T, I agree. There's some really cool set pieces. The production design is really interesting, odd, really cool. And everybody does fully, for better or worse, commit to their characters. I love the effects. As I said, Tom Savini is, overseeing everything.
Mm-hmm.
The story? What story?
Yeah, I was searching.
Yeah, I'm a little puzzled by certain connections.
Right.
I have maybe some answers of things that were cut, but it's just, I don't know. There's something big missing here. And maybe it does. The thing that I was like, don't let your love of the first one taint your experience with this one. I think that in that way, maybe it has, because it almost feels like you're not doing justice to the name that you have. And I know that that's not why we're here. I know he wanted to be silly with it. And like you said, T, I do think that's admirable as well.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge fucking swing for how much people love the first movie to be like, let's do something completely fucking different.
Yeah.
I think that that's really interesting, really admirable, and really brave. But I do feel like it does set a certain level of, you better pay respect. You know what I mean? Like kind of the new one, the reboot or remake or whatever the fuck it was that came out a few years ago.
Oh, right.
The one on Netflix?
Yes.
Yeah,
Didn't
I don't
care
know what
for
that
it
was.
at all. And
No.
an extra edge of pissed off because it's like, you're not fit to call yourself. You know what I mean? And it's almost like, again, and it is Tobe Hooper. So it's like, this is yours. You can do whatever the fuck you want with it.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I can follow you this far.
I think that's what shocked me the most is because it is wild to see directed by Tobe Hooper.
Yes.
Yeah.
When it is so tonally different.
Yeah.
And also, this is 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, after Poltergeist. And so I feel kind of like puzzled by that because that was a very fun horror film.
Yeah.
That was honestly laugh out loud sometimes.
Yeah.
And then utterly terrifying.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well, if I'm seeing Tobe Hooper.
You can do both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was really strange to me.
Yeah, I think that's another issue that I have with this one is I'm not scared at any point. You know what I mean? Like I again appreciate all of the practical effects that were done. As always, I think they're really fucking cool. But it's like, yeah, at some points it's like, oh, that's gross or whatever. But it's like I was like, there was a sense of unease and dread in the first one.
Yeah.
And even when shit gets harrowing, and I do like our final girl as well, I don't think they give her enough to work with in kind of the latter half of the film.
Fair.
Mhm.
But I do like her too. And I feel like I'm like, it's going to be okay. Like, even if it's not okay for her, like I don't feel that fear. I don't feel that dread.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, something feels very missing. And then learning that they were literally rewriting on set, it's like,
Oh.
that it's probably there. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I would really be interested in what fully, because I know a few things, but fully what that original story was.
Well, I feel like this film is trying to be more character driven.
Mhm.
And so it's almost like the sequences and the moments like that take a back seat to these characters having these moments.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of it being like, dude, just walking towards the farmhouse in the
Yeah.
first film.
Yeah.
You're fucking like, what is she going to find in there?
Yeah.
And
We already know there's stuff going on. I think man has been clubbed
Man has been clubbed. Yes.
at this point.
But I think it's that too, because there's no overly complicated story in the first one.
No.
It's very A, B, C, D, the end. And that was fine because of the way it was executed. This, I would have liked a little more in the way of story, but I think there was enough here to keep me on the hook for, no pun intended, pun fully intended. Oh my God, I'm done. Until next time. I'm done. No, but I just, there's something here that is not, it's just not doing it for me. And it really bums me out because I fully came into it with an open mind. I love so many people involved in this.
Yeah.
And I love the franchise. I love Leatherface. I'm just like, I'm bummed that I don't. And I love everybody who loves this. I love that it worked for them, and I just wish it was me.
No, I agree.
Yeah, because again, I like sillier horror.
Yes,
This,
you
I
do.
should have been like, okay, cool, we're doing this, and I think I just don't get enough to care.
Yeah, well, like I said,
overall, it's just I'm just here.
it's not scary because they leaned more into funny, but it's not really that funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very loud.
yeah.
But before we get into it, I did want to talk a little bit about production. I did get my information from lots of interviews in this making of documentary that I watched, and Fangoria, and information from the American Film Institute. So again, what does a financially successful horror film usually lead to?
A sequel.
Yeah.
That's right, a sequel. So let me take it back. According to the screenwriter, L.M. Kit Carson, he first met Tobe Hooper in an airport when Hooper was on his way to show the Texas Chainsaw Massacre at Cannes, the first one.
Okay.
So he was telling Carson about the film, and Carson was very intrigued. So Hooper set up a screening for him. Carson said that he was amazed. He told Hooper that he'd invented a new genre and that he would jump at any opportunity to work with him. So about 2 years later, Hooper approached him to write a script for a movie that never ended up getting made. Carson moves on and co-writes the screenplay for Paris, Texas, which would go on to win the Palme d'Or at Cannes.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's then that he's told that he's on the list of serious screenwriters now. And Carson said that all he knew was he wanted to get off that list immediately. It was around this time that he's approached again by Hooper to do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
I did not know that he wrote Paris, Texas, so
Yeah.
I am even more.
Yeah, co-wrote, but yeah.
That's wild.
They both agreed that the first film was outrageous, and they wanted this one to be outrageous as well, but in a different way. So, as I said in the intro, Hooper felt like the first film had a lot of comedic elements that were completely lost on the audience. So he really wanted to lean into this one here and go full satire. And I found it interesting. He was supposed to oversee production. He wasn't even supposed to direct it. But obviously he ended up directing it.
And I do understand, because there were several moments in the first film that were pretty humorous.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't know, just the balance.
I was going to say, I feel like it's balanced well, though.
Yeah.
But Carson wrote the first draft in 3 weeks. And in a meeting with the producers in February, they're told that they have to make a late August release date. Mind you, nothing has started yet. We have a rough draft. To achieve this, they literally had to have an editor on set before the film was finished editing. And even then, they didn't wrap until July 4th, 1986, and the film was released August 22nd. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Uh-huh.
Carson finishes the first draft in 3 weeks, and they head to Texas to scout locations and start pre-production. They had one more meeting before production began, where they're told that $1 million is being cut from the budget.
The fuck?
That's not...
Right before they start. Yeah. So this is when Carson begins his rewrites. Carson said that he was rewriting the script the entire shoot. Yes, there's been another goddamn rewrite. He said that every time you have a different version of the script while you're filming, those pages are a different color. And he said that this script was a rainbow.
Wow.
They even said that on the last day of filming, Carson had fallen asleep in his chair, still typing on his typewriter. And the DP woke him up and said, "You don't have to keep writing. We finished." The last day.
Wow.
Well, but isn't it like, well, there's a lot of things we haven't
Yeah.
settled, really?
They're like, "We're done.
No shit.
We're done."
What do you mean?
But after the film was finished, they did a cast and crew screening, and everyone was laughing the entire time. Carson said that this is when Hooper's like, uh-oh, like maybe they did a little too much. The producers did not like it. They demanded more bad guys. They said that that's what everyone is coming to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 to see.
Right.
So according to Carson, this is when everything changes. Extensive cuts were made, dropping entire plot lines and character arcs, one really major one that we will talk about later. But even with all this, Carson said that he wasn't upset because there was nothing he could do about it. He's like, it was out of my hands. I'm just grateful that I got to make a movie.
Fair.
Which I think
Yeah.
is the way to look at it.
Yeah.
Because he said that this was kind of unrecognizable to what they had conceived. So the film is screened by the MPAA twice and failed to get an R rating both times. So it was released unrated, but it was released on time.
All right.
And after the first film, it wasn't what anyone was expecting. Even the cast and crew felt like the default comparison to the first film led to negative reactions and the film being received really poorly. But it is undeniable that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 would eventually find its audience. It's a beloved cult classic to this day, and we're going to cover it right now.
Let's do it.
All right.
I never know how to end it. Now, before we barbecue this film, we would like to issue a warning for spoilers. Podmortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, then let's lick the plate. Now, this film relies heavily on having already seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you haven't, we suggest you go watch it or listen to episode 20 of our show as a refresher. The film begins with white text scrolling up the black screen. A narrator reads, "On the afternoon of August 18th, 1973, 5 young people in a Volkswagen van ran out of gas on a farm road in South Texas. 4 of them were never seen again. The next morning, the one survivor, Sally Hardesty Enright, was picked up on a roadside, blood-caked and screaming murder. Sally said that she had broken out of a window in hell. The girl babbled a mad tale, a cannibal family in an isolated farmhouse, chainsawed fingers and bones, her brother, her friends, hacked up for barbecue, chairs made of human skeletons. Then she sank into catatonia. Texas lawmen mounted a month-long manhunt, but could not locate the macabre farmhouse. They could find no killers and no victims, no facts, no crime. Officially, on the records, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre never happened. But during the last 13 years, over and over again, reports of bizarre, grisly chainsaw mass murders have persisted all across the state of Texas. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre has not stopped. It haunts Texas. It seems to have no end. A tense score mounts as the credits begin, and it swells when we get the title, red like the credits before it, against the black background, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. The score grows frenzied as it gives way to more credits.
Just a couple things.
Uh-huh.
Firstly, I did appreciate beginning with a scroll again.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because it's like the language of the franchise. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing, when I hear Sally Hardesty Enright, my first thought was good for her.
She got married.
Yeah.
She got married.
Yeah,
She found love in a hopeless place.
Yes.
But that's not the case, I guess not.
No.
And so that was puzzling to me because it seems like a change made kind of unnecessarily
Right.
Yes.
and kind of a tenuous connection
Mm-hmm.
for this film to the previous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I did expect to see her.
Well, they're like, she slipped into catatonia. We're moving on.
I do find it odd that we're pulling the whole like disappearing act. This never happened. They weren't there. You're not moving that farmhouse, dude.
No.
All that trash
True.
and all that bullshit they had back there, all those cars, the barbecue was down the street. I mean, they had. Where did it all go?
The furniture.
Yeah.
It would almost be, I wish you would have we found it. It was abandoned. There's so much whatever. They haunt Texas. Okay, because they're gone.
And that's great.
Yeah.
That's a really cool beginning setup, too.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, dude, the cook isn't like, get the luminol. Gotta check to make sure your brother is you know?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Like, so for there to be, and it wasn't that far from that house that they checked out.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's not too hard to find.
No.
So that's an interesting choice, too.
I
Yeah.
feel like that would have been scarier too, where it's like they're gone without a trace.
Yeah.
But all of these horrific things did happen. You know what I mean? And some say that chicken is still left.
I fucking hope so.
We come back on a row of mailboxes set up next to a lonely Texas road as the percussive beats of Shame on You by Timbuk 3 begin. But gunshots ring out as a Mercedes drives by, and the mailboxes become collateral damage as the person riding passenger in the car opens fire while they ride by. The gunner, Rick, played by Chris Doritis, cries out in celebration, wearing a smile on his face along with sunglasses with bright lenses and fake eyes. He puts another bullet through the middle of a sign reading, Battle of San Jacinto. He cackles wildly, firing another set of bullets into a sign announcing the city of Dallas. Another sign pleading with us to remember the Alamo is shot and collapses. And all three, we're big fans of Dallas.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't fucking do that. I was like, I already fucking hate this guy.
Yeah, watch it, Mark Summers.
Inside the car, the shooter settles back in and takes a drink of his beer. The driver, Buzz, played by Barry Kenyon, in his yellow knit sweater, laughs that they're on their way to the biggest party in the world. But at a radio station, Vanita Stretch Brock, played by Caroline Williams, sits behind the switchboard, grooving to the theme for the station, K. Okla.
Stretch, Caroline Williams. Found some very interesting credits. Halloween 2 from 2009.
She was in that.
Yes, yeah.
That's Rob Zombie.
Yeah, no, obviously.
Days of Thunder from 1990. And Renfield from 2023.
Oh my God.
So she does have a part there.
Okay. We still need to cover Renfield.
Yeah.
That's true.
And the Rob Zombie Halloween.
We'll get there.
Yeah. No rush, huh?
No. We'll figure it out.
I saw in an interview with Caroline Williams, she said that she was living in Dallas at the time, and she heard that they were casting in Austin for Texan actresses. So she drove there, and it was packed. She said that the women were coming in and out doing their auditions, but the room was dead silent. So when it was her turn, she ran all the way to the end of the hall opposite the audition room and ran screaming down the hall, burst in the door. She yanked Hooper and Carter out of their chairs, pushed the chairs up against the door, and then did her audition.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
she got it.
Yeah.
She was like, I couldn't hear anyone. She's like, there was no screaming, no nothing. So, I mean, she did. And she's a good screamer.
Yeah. I honestly think that she is one of the major strengths of this
I
film.
agree.
Yeah, I just, as we go, we'll see. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, there's nothing.
And it's, I would say not any fault of hers.
No,
I
not
think
at
they,
all.
as it goes on, they just don't give her enough to do.
No.
But I will say she's got a fucking incredible voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. It's like, yeah, she was radio perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Adrienne Barbeau in The Fog.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But when the phone rings, she snatches it up, introducing herself as Stretch and identifying the Red River Rock and Roll request line. A girl answers her in a southern accent, and Buzz and Rick sip their beers in the Mercedes as they listen to the request through their car radio. This is for Glenn. Could you tell the girls at Mesquite High to just leave him alone? Stretch laughs, repeating that Glenn is off limits. She ends the call and turns to the microphone, telling the listeners that this is Stretch on K. Okla's open request line in Burke Burnett, Texas, Red River Rock and Roll from the tip top of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. She turns up the music.
Burke Burnett, Texas.
Yes!
We went to school there.
We did. I was like, what the fuck? When she said the name.
Shout out to friend of the show, Jordan Miller.
Yes.
Okay.
But I was very shocked. And that's another thing that I do appreciate about this film. Legitimately filmed in Texas. And a lot of these other Texas Chainsaw films is like, well, that's in Europe.
Yeah,
Clearly.
you could tell for
Clearly
sure.
not Texas. But
I can't remember what movie it was that we were impressed that it did feel like Texas when it wasn't. Because
Yes.
you can tell
Oh,
most of
yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
In the Mercedes, Buzz picks up his state-of-the-art car phone and decides that he's going to give Stretch a call. Rick giggles, asking what kind of name that is, but Buzz places the call, and when Stretch answers, he says that he's Cornelly Buzz, and laughing wildly, Rick cries out his own introduction, and Rick the Prick. But Buzz continues with his message from all the senior boys at Wheeler High to all the senior girls. You are not in high school.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I graduated with you. No, I'm just kidding. But he tells them, you're so stuck up and you're on the road to nowhere. Stretch clarifies, you mean we're on the road to nowhere, indicating Rick and Buzz. But Rick snatches the phone, correcting her. No, they're on the road to Texas OU weekend in Dallas. Stretch is on the road to nowhere. Buzz agrees, crying out, hook 'em horns, baby. I'm like, oh, these guys are a lot of
Yeah, who the fuck are these two guys, man?
I don't know. I'm done. Stretch politely tries to get them to end the call, even telling them that they're tying up the line. But Rick and Buzz refuse. They've got lots more requests. Annoyed, Stretch glances through the booth's window, locking eyes with L.G. McPeters, played by Lou Perryman. It's something that I learned that was very interesting. Lou Perryman was the assistant cameraman on the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
How cool.
Okay.
And Hooper had kind of invited him to do this role and asked him for kind of, a quirky thing that his character could do. He was like, what do you feel like doing? And Lou Perryman had said, I feel like spitting. And he does.
Yeah.
I was wondering the origin of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't my favorite.
No.
I got a real weak stomach, folks, and so the fact that it kept happening, it's like,
It's
oh,
a
this
lot.
is.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
Just odd.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Well, plug your ears.
Mhm.
Already distracted from the phone call that they just insisted that they stay on, Buzz draws Rick's attention to a car coming in the opposite direction. He proposes that they play a little chicken with the farmer, and of course, Rick is game. The tires squeal in protest as Buzz swerves wildly into the next lane, driving right at the incoming truck, blue with an American flag painted on the back. Maybe you remember this vehicle. The truck changes lanes, but Buzz follows suit, getting in front of it again. Stretch is still listening to the whining of the tires and Rick and Buzz's incessant giggling. And when the vehicles finally come close to each other, the truck swerves off into the grass lining the road. Rick and Buzz cheer their victory, but behind them, the blue truck makes a U-turn onto the road. Rick snatches up the phone, asking Stretch, you got that, babe? Hot ride. Buzz adds that she better stick with them, but Stretch is pulling at plugs on the switchboard, trying to disconnect the call. When it doesn't work, she tells them to just hang up, okay? But Buzz maintains, no way! He continues to swerve along the road, his license plate a juvenile Q waving in our faces. Still gripping the phone, Buzz screams again, hook 'em horns.
The state of Texas would not allow. They'd be like, you better pick another thing. That's not going to work. They're very strict. I've tried.
I tried to get that exact place.
Yeah.
And they said no.
Maybe this was why.
Stretch calls out to LG, swiping her hand across her throat, motioning for him to kill the call. But LG is struggling on his side of the glass, too. He assures her that he's trying, darling. But Stretch snaps at him. Don't call me darling, damn it. But Rick is leaning out the window again at the feverish encouragement of his friend, ready to shoot another sign. He does, marring the invite, see Texas Battleland Amusement Park 7 miles ahead. We watch as they speed off, continuing to cry out. I'm sure that's nothing.
Yeah. It won't return or anything.
No.
The Hoop Man made this?
Indeed he did.
It's dusk when we return to the radio station, and the lights for K-Okla illuminate on the second floor of the small building above a gun shop.
I did want to talk about this radio station. There's a few sets that we'll get to throughout the episode that I think are pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But the production designer on this film was a guy called Kerry White.
What?
Yeah. Very cool. But he was actually a local artist in Austin, and I guess whenever the budget was cut and they were trying to assemble a crew to get everything done, they kind of were scrambling. And so they found his work and kind of fell in love with it. And they're like, you're perfect. And this is like one of the first major films that he was a part of, really.
That's surprising.
Yeah. But this radio set in particular, it was built on the first floor of the former Austin American Statesman newspaper building.
All right.
And we'll talk a little bit more about the second floor of the building because it is used pretty amazingly later.
Oh, okay.
But this was a set that they built for this radio station. It looks like they just rocked up to a radio station. We're like, can we use this?
Yeah, it does.
But no, they did everything. They built it out. They even had, I think it was because of the limitations of the budget, but everything that's on the walls, every item, every prop was borrowed or lent to the production.
I love that.
And so they were talking about it on that making of featurette, but every single item on the back of it, it had who owned it written on it.
Well, to give it back.
Yeah. Which I thought was kind of funny. But something interesting that I did see behind Stretch is a poster of the Beatles. And this is a band album cover from the Beatles. I think it was Yesterday and Today. Mm-hmm. But it's known as the Butcher cover.
Oh.
Because it shows the Beatles. It's like all these dolls like torn apart and like what looks like guts all over them.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that wouldn't go over well.
No.
Yeah, no.
But it's interesting to see in this film as almost like a bit of foreshadowing of what's to come.
Yeah,
Okay.
it definitely fits thematically.
Yeah.
But inside, Stretch and LG both vibe on opposite sides of the booth window. Stretch dancing and sipping her beer, and LG walking around and taking notes on his clipboard, mouthing the words to Goo Goo Muck by the Cramps as it plays. Stretch cuts in, announcing that it's 8:11 on a Friday night. And even though nobody's listening because they're all zooming, she's still got a hot shot of rock and roll for them. She starts another song, and when the phone rings, she answers it. But to her dismay, it's Buzz and Rick again. I'm like, can we block? Like, is there any way?
Yeah.
I would hate not being able to hang up.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there are too many people that would take advantage of that. Or, like, what if you hear something horrific and traumatizing?
Yeah, at what point can I hang up?
Honestly, yeah.
It just seems like a flawed plan. That's all. She implores Buzz to hang up the phone and call his mother. She hangs up the receiver, but Buzz is still going. This time, he's requesting for Rick, who wants to hear Bright Lights, Big Titties. But Rick snatches the phone, cackling that he doesn't want to hear it. He wants to see it. Bright Lights, Big Titties.
I imagine Rob Zombie with a notepad.
Yeah, probably.
Bright lights. Big.
Titties with 2 Ds. But hanging up her receiver didn't disconnect the call, and Stretch calls desperately to LG. He sits down and puts on his headphones, once again yanking cords to try to cut the cackling callers off. But Buzz and Rick drive onto a bridge where a huge truck's lights brighten, revealing the vehicle. It pulls forward, jutting out into the center of the bridge and blocking the Mercedes from going any further.
I think this is when the song on the radio switches to No One Lives Forever by Oingo Boingo.
It feels, you can tell it's Oingo Boingo.
Big fan of this change.
Yeah.
Although
yeah.
the Cramps was great, but I think that there is something very special about this song. Not just the fact that Danny Elfman sounds exactly like Jack Skellington in a few parts, but I feel like it does kind of fit what's going on or what's about to go on, and kind of as like a message to these two rambunctious 30-year-old teenagers.
Yes.
I took this more of it just reminded me that I should watch Weird Science. That was it.
It did sound like Weird
That
Science.
was it. I was like, oh, that was a good movie. That.
But Rick and Buzz are like, what the fuck? They peer out of the windshield, but under the cover of the night's darkness, the lights from the truck are so bright that they can't see who's behind the wheel. Buzz screams at the unseen driver, asking if they're crazy, demanding that they back up, pig fucker.
What's wrong? You guys are scared now? You and Rick the Dick? You guys are all cool a minute
You've
ago.
been terrorizing people all night. But without further incident, the truck reverses back to where it was on the side, out of the way. But it keeps reversing steadily, keeping up with the Mercedes as Buzz drives past them. Rick begs Buzz to hurry up and get them out of here, but the truck is keeping up with them as they go. Stretch is listening to all of this on the phone at Keokla, and she lowers her head when LG reports that Buzz and Rick have to be the ones that hang up. Which we did know that already.
Yes.
Buzz and Rick are a little busy, though, screaming at the driver of the truck who will not leave them alone. Stretch is yelling at them to just hang up, but she is the last thing on their minds. Something that looks like a corpse rises from the truck, their arms spread wide. The head bobbles with mottled skin on its face as it looks down at Rick and Buzz. They're horrified. Buzz asks what it is, and Rick guesses that it's some kind of geek. But where did it come from? He implores Buzz to just keep driving. The zombie, with its dried skin and unfocused eyes, leers down at them from the truck bed. But once we get a closer look, there seems to be a cloaked figure standing behind it, operating the supposed geek like a puppet. Regardless, the figure stoops down and lifts a chainsaw. It pulls the cord and the chainsaw revs to life loudly, spewing smoke. Buzz goes, "What? I don't believe this shit."
That's a very good reaction.
It is. It's not a traffic jam. Right?
No.
Yeah, it's not. It may be an underreaction. This is bullshit.
I'd be very surprised too.
Yeah.
But Stretch is still listening to all of this unfold, her eyes wide. The puppeted cadaver writhes, holding up the chainsaw and shaking. It continues to stand up in the truck bed, brandishing the chainsaw as the two vehicles race along the bridge, side by side. As they continue listening at the station, the blade is finally brought down on the Mercedes. Sparks fly as the teeth of the chainsaw bite through the ceiling, revealing Rick and Buzz inside, contorting themselves to get away from the chainsaw's blade. Pressing his headphones closer to his ear, LG offers that sounds like a buzzsaw. Disturbed by this prospect, Stretch repeats into the phone again, "Hang up, hang up, hang up, hang up." But Buzz doesn't hang up. He's telling Rick to shoot that motherfucker. Shaking, Rick rises through the sunroof that's been raggedly carved into the Mercedes. He shoots the cadaver right in the head, causing it to slump lifelessly to one side and reveal the puppeteer, Leatherface, played by Bill Johnson.
Bill Johnson, he did DOA in 88, Fall to Grace in 05, and Supernatural Activity in 2012. That is a parody movie.
It sounds
I
like
thought it might be.
Yeah. Just want to make it clear.
I saw in one of those interviews, Bill Johnson said that he had never even seen the original film before.
Wow.
And he watched it a week before he went to audition. But he said that when he watched it, he knew immediately that no one could ever do what Gunnar Hansen had done. So he took the performance as inspiration and kind of obviously did his own thing. But he was like, this Leatherface is a different Leatherface character-wise than the first one anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of shocked to see the turn this takes because it doesn't seem like our Leatherface that we...
Right.
No, there is a character we meet later on that I think should be the one doing this. It is shocking to me that when that cadaver slumps forward, that Leatherface is the one up here doing these shenanigans. Doesn't seem like the Leatherface I know.
No.
But as far as his mask, which I think does look really good, Tom Savini had said that they wanted it to look like it was made of 2 or 3 different people. So if you look close, there's different like skin textures, skin color, sewn together. So he made it.
Okay.
Their victory is cut short when they see Leatherface shaking his head wildly and crying out in muffled gibberish behind his mask. Leatherface screams as he brings the chainsaw down, cutting through the driver's side door. Buzz has thrown himself across the seat, cowering by the passenger window with Rick. How the Mercedes is still driving, your guess is as good as mine. But still clutching the phone in his hand for some reason, Buzz scoots back to the driver's side.
This feels like an ad for Mercedes.
Yeah.
We're durable.
We got a phone, you call for help.
Yeah. We'll keep driving you forward. Stretch listens as Buzz screams, "You son of a bitch!" But when we cut back to the car, Rick is shooting behind them, lamenting that he missed those assholes. But when he turns back to his friend, he lets loose a horrified scream. We see Buzz, the wheel abandoned as he lifts his trembling hands. There is a deep and bleeding gash down the center of his forehead where he apparently had a run-in with Leatherface's chainsaw. Rick continues to scream as Buzz cradles his head, crimson running down in a curtain, painting his entire face. Rick sobs his friend's name, but the piece on Buzz's scalp that was barely holding on falls off, and we watch from behind as blood spurts from the inside of Buzz's head.
The effects are incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, this does look really cool.
Yeah.
The chase for me went on a little too long. Him, kind of shaking the chainsaw. I was like, all right, we got it.
That's his thing.
Yeah.
There are several sequences like that for me where I'm like, this would have been more effective if it wasn't so drawn out.
Yeah.
Now that Rick and Buzz are no more, they're our first victims of the film. And Carson had said that the very first thing that they wrote was, who are the victims? Because he said in the first film they were hippies and they didn't want to do the same thing again. So he went to the mall in Dallas to get some inspiration and, in his words, saw a bunch of yuppies walking around. And he was like, those are the victims. But it's like, it's just these two.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert or whatever. That's all. You know what I mean? But we've already talked about Tom Savini's involvement. I wanted to talk a little bit about this gag and about how he got to be involved. He said that he was contacted by the production manager. So he did what he said is his old trick of looking the script over and like majorly padding out the number of what they would need to get this done. So he's able to negotiate it down to what they actually needed. But they approved it, and he said that he showed up in Texas for production with his wife and 9-month-old daughter and got to work. And he said that when they wrapped on July 4th in 86, he took them to Disney World.
Hey.
So they deserve it.
Yeah.
But this one specifically, he was really unhappy with the final editing here. He said that if you look at a fake head for more than 3 seconds, you can tell that it's fake. So they wanted to use as much of the real actor as they could. They made this fiberglass dome to put on the actor's real head. They put a balloon inside of it and blew it up to give a space there, and they packed it with blood, and they colored a bunch of packing peanuts red for brain matter. So he said they did all this really disgusting gore, but with the editing, all you see is blood spurting up from the back of his head. You don't see the brains. He said that they did so much more than that, and that the editing was super, super disappointing to him.
That sucks.
And I can understand that, especially after all the work you put in.
Yeah.
I think the thing that really shocked me about it was how much we do see in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the strengths in the first film, was feeling like you saw more than you did.
That's true.
Because you really don't see much in that first film.
Right.
But, I mean, it is a sign of the times. It is the 80s. We are going more in that direction.
Yeah.
So I understand, but it was kind of surprising. It's like, dude, his fucking head's come off.
And it was. But Stretch's hand is shaking as she holds the phone to her ear and listens to the inevitable crunching of metal as the Mercedes finally crashes. She and LG look at each other in disbelief when the call is finally disconnected. The music has stopped too, and LG reports that it just cut off. Stretch asks if he did that, but LG explains that he just put the underwoofer across the overflapper. It's like super feedback. He admits that he doesn't know. It just went dead air. I don't know how accurate it is.
Yeah.
I've never heard of any of that.
We'll take his word for it.
Yeah.
LG knows what he's doing. The next morning, we find Lieutenant Lefty Enright, played by Dennis Hopper, at the scene of the wrecked Mercedes just under the bridge.
I don't know why this man's here, but I'm glad Dennis Hopper. Easy Rider, 69. Boiling point 93, speed 94, And we cannot forget that he's fucking King Koopa in the Super Mario Brothers movie from 1993. Now, I know he's done a lot more.
Mm-hmm. I would
King
like
Koopa.
to... Yeah. Shout out Blue Velvet.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that came out the same year that this did. 86.
That's wild. He was also in an episode of King of the Hill.
He was. I believe he was hanging out with Peggy. Right?
He was at Willie Nelson's house. They were eating watermelon. Anyway,
Was he in that Bug's Life knockoff Ants?
Oh, was he?
I don't feel like he was a bad guy. Maybe a grasshopper. I don't remember.
I can see that.
But I do recall such things.
They said that he celebrated his 50th birthday while they were on set.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, and that they got him this huge birthday cake and they all sang to him and he just walked off. And then he came back with a chainsaw and cut his cake with a chainsaw.
Okay.
So it seems like he was really into it.
Yeah, good.
And if anyone was wondering, that was Gene Hackman
Oh, that's right, it was.
in the motion picture Ants. Sorry.
He was.
But he did hang out with Peggy on King of the Hill.
Yes, he did. That
Don't
he
you,
did.
That he
don't
did.
you worry about that.
Don't take that away.
Beneath the cowboy hat perched on his head, he eyes the incoming police cars below, and as the crime scene is processed, he walks further down, finding the driver's side door that has been thrown clear next to the mangled remains of the Mercedes emblem. Maybe this is
I'm telling you.
He runs his finger curiously along the deep gashes left behind by the chainsaw, lining the door among the dried blood. But he pulls the door, scooting it out of the way and revealing Rick's lost glasses with a small flourish in the score. With the warning blip of their sirens, a cluster of police cruisers make their way onto the grass shoulder.
So we found his glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Did not find him.
I guess not.
This is where I'm thinking we're going to find them taken.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously Buzz was killed, but
Yeah.
Rick, not necessarily, you know? Yeah, there are several things, including this interaction that we were about to see right now, that I was expecting to flesh out into something bigger or more like narratively, and it just, we're like, okay, we're done with that. That scene's done. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
Because we are about to set up a dynamic that
Yes.
it seemed like it was going to go back and forth.
It does feel that way.
I thought that this was going to be kind of like the crux of Lefty's arc. That's what I'm thinking. And maybe at one point it was, but no more. Not in this
Yeah.
version.
Mm-mm.
As the cars come to a stop, a patrolman played by Harlan Jordan bursts from his car, yelling at Lefty. This is an active scene and the area is restricted. He warns who he deems to be a cowboy that he's not going to tell him again, but his threats are quelled by a detective played by Kirk Sisko. The patrolman leaves angrily as the detective turns his attention to Lefty, greeting him by Lieutenant Enright and with a smile. He says that he heard Lefty might be coming this way. Did he come home for the big game? But Lefty has already turned away from him. Still, he reasons, "You know why I'm here." Grimacing, the detective offers that it's something about the chainsaw killers and his brother's kids being killed. Lefty turns back toward him, his brows knitted in grief. The detective maintains that that was 14 years ago, all the way down in South Texas. I think the intro said it was 13 years.
It did. There were a lot of rewrites.
Yeah.
This was on like a purple page or something, I guess.
But he says that these are other kids now, and it was just an accident. Just a couple of wild punks out raising hell. Lefty is like, yeah, one of those boys was so wild that he sawed his own head off going 90 miles per hour. Which is like, damn, he ate with that one. The detective's friendly smile drops as Lefty offers a humorless chuckle. Hell is exactly what they raised. The detective glowers as he looks up at the police and the crew trying to hook the wrecked Mercedes onto a tow truck. But when Lefty turns to walk away, he follows, insisting that that information is off the record. He allows that this is always a hairy weekend in Dallas. Lots of folks come in from out of town, not even caring about football. They just want to go blood crazy and riot. He reminds Lefty that he knows what riot means. He was a ranger. But Lefty is completely ignoring him when he opens the door to his own car. He interrupts the detective, imploring him to try to speak plain. It saves time. When he said that, I was like, the folksy, like Southern, I was like, I think this is going to be an interesting character.
Yeah.
And I feel like again, it's the same thing with Stretch. You kind of start strong, and then it just, any personality or anything is just either rewritten into a different character or just gone, and we're just going to have you doing the dice move for the rest of the movie. You know what I mean? He sits down behind the wheel and closes the door behind him, sighing as he rests his arm on the shelf of the open window. But the detective isn't done. He informs Lefty that he has authority from the DA's office to put him right back on the next plane to Amarillo. Sticking a cigarette between his lips, Lefty invites him. Will you just do that, son? He muses that he'd like to see that authority. The detective just sighs before conceding and asking what the lieutenant's deal is. Lefty tells him he's going to ask some questions and put it in the press and get it in the news. Any information about the accident or some witnesses. The detective nods with a grin that he knows some old boys at the paper that could put the story out for him. Exhaling smoke, Lefty nods. Brazos. He repeats this again when he starts his car and drives away. The detective is left behind, sneering when Lefty calls out again. Brazos. But he straightens after Lefty's gone, clicking his tongue as he mutters, "Remember the Alamo, cowboy."
Again, we already said we thought this was going to be a dynamic that's returned to.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting, or thought it was interesting, how he said you were a ranger.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, there's some history here. Why aren't you
Yeah.
Right.
anymore?
It was their little back and forth. I was like, okay, so you are going to be the thorn in this dude's side when he's trying to do something.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, well, he does have pull though, because he's like, hey, go do this for me. You're not doing anything to me. I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
He's like, let me see you do that.
Yeah. But it is weird that this is it.
It is. And so remember the Alamo, is that also like a bit of a warning to him that he's trying to say, hey,
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
on this, So I don't know. It just seemed like they're setting up so much here that doesn't really get explored that adequately.
Right.
Really at all. Well, because I found this dynamic really interesting. I kind of wanted to see where it went,
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Period.
But you saying all these rewrites and all these different changes, it's like I really wonder what that first draft
Yeah.
looked like.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a lot more.
I would bet that there is, because we don't set up this dynamic for no reason. You know what I mean?
And real quick, I don't understand why we wouldn't want help with this. Like, look at the giant slashes in the door.
Mm-hmm.
That is it is self-explanatory, and we can very easily connect it to something
Uh-huh.
else. But I'm also, where's Enright's brother? The father of the,
Yeah.
Really good question.
I
I don't know. Maybe he's hanging out with Sidney Prescott's dad. Some dads don't stick around when that's
That's
get
true. Yeah. It's like, look, Sydney, shit's getting pretty scary. So I'm going to go ahead and dip.
Go ahead and give me a call.
He's gone.
We cut to the hall of a hotel where drunk cowboys stumble around, wooing and cheering. When Stretch approaches the door to room 323, they wolf whistle at her. When one of them throws a balled up piece of paper and it hits her, she turns, calling them an asshole, but this doesn't deter the stumbling men. So there is a coach that walks by pissed off. That's Tobe Hooper.
I knew
Yeah.
it.
It's Tobe Hooper.
So cool.
She knocks frantically on the door, and when it finally opens, it's Lieutenant Lefty on the other side. Stretch holds up a folded newspaper where the headline, "Cowboy Chasing Chainsaw," is visible, and she asks him, "You need a witness? I'm a witness." She shares that she thinks she was talking to the kids in that Mercedes when it happened, and it was no accident. Lefty is in awe when he asks her, "You saw it?" She corrects him that she heard it, and he can too. She has it on tape. Stretch steps inside the room, and when the leering cowboys catch sight of Lefty, they finally back off. As he closes the door, Stretch finally fishes out the tape from her bag. She holds it up, explaining that it's policy. They have to record all the call-ins. They usually wipe the tapes at the end of the night, but she kept this one because it just got to her. I'm sure, dude.
There was something about this one.
I just had a weird feeling that I should hold on to it. Lefty is staring at her with an intensity, but softens when he dismisses that they've got professionals on this. But Stretch starts talking faster, over-talking him as she asserts that she thinks what he's looking for is on this tape. Lefty concedes that she can slow down now. He walks past her to a small table where he has a bottle of liquor and a shot glass. As he pours one for himself, Stretch consults the paper, informing him that he looks like a joke in it. She reads, "Cowboy chases chainsaws for 14 years. Dallas police refuse comment." She tells him that it's like he's hung up on something crazy, but she believes him, and she might be the only one because she's got it right here on this tape. So this is when I'm like, again, first of all, Lefty looks like shit. I don't know I don't know what's happened to him since we saw him in the last scene. He's drinking. He's dismissing her. This is just the complete opposite energy of the man that we just met literally 2 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the detective being like, "Oh, I have some people at the paper that can get it out for you," and they're making fun of him.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Oh, this is again." I'm like, "This is gonna come back."
Yeah, that was very funny. It's like, oh, y'all just fucking roasted him.
Yeah, no,
sure,
they
I'll get it done.
Yeah.
I know some guys. It's like, dude.
Maybe it hurt his feelings more than he's letting on, and that's why he looks like shit.
Yeah.
He's been crying for
He's
2
been,
years.
he's sobbing. He's taking shots with two hands like a baby for some reason. He's going through it.
He is.
But Lefty takes the shot with both hands, as you said, and his eyes float down to the tape in her hand. He asks what it is, and Stretch tells him again, on this tape is those kids getting killed. She surmises that makes this evidence, right? Despite all of this, Lefty stands up and decides that it's time for her to go home.
What the fuck's going on?
I don't know.
I felt like I had whiplash.
Yeah.
I was so confused. He tries to lead her to the door, but Stretch slips out of his grasp and sits back down at the table. She explains that she came here because she thought she could help him. She DJs for a dumb show on K-Okla up in Burke Burnett, but people listen to her all over North Texas. She could put him on the radio. People would believe him and it could help. Exhaling smoke from his cigarette, Lefty warns, "You're going to get in my way. Don't you get in my way." He literally said, "I'm going to put it in the paper. I'm going to put it on the news." This is what he wanted in the last scene.
It's literally to JP's point of why are you refusing this help?
Yes.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It is, and I don't know if this was for something for later, but it is something like this. Things like this. We just seen what he was asking for. He's like, look, when we find out he's been doing it for so long, it's his family is involved. He's got a point to prove or whatever. But here it is, even if it is the paper, he's like, okay, I'm a joke. I'm drinking. I'm gonna get sad, whatever. For her to come and be like, look, dude, I have a voice, a platform. I got something. Evidence right here. Let me help you. For him to just be like, you're gonna fuck things up.
Why?
Yeah. What?
I mean, unless he really is just burned by what happened with his newspaper, and
That's
he's like,
too much. That's entirely.
Yeah,
For 14 years, I've been a dog with the bone. I did something. I'm not even a fucking ranger anymore, but I'm showing up at crime scenes and messing with evidence, which you shouldn't have been doing. If
Yeah,
you're
you
not,
shouldn't have
you
been.
know, whatever. But no, I'm challenging detectives. Like, and then they wrote a mean thing about me.
he's like, she's gonna make fart noises and like, I mean, I don't know.
Weenie in the butt.
Yeah.
She's gonna fart and blame it on me.
Yeah. It's like, no, I'm here to solve the murder.
That wasn't me.
Stretch, you promised me.
Like, I can't take it anymore. But Stretch counters that she's already right in the middle of this. This is her chance to stop playing headbanging music and do something real. Lefty grabs her by the shoulders and guides her up from the chair and toward the door, reasoning that he doesn't need anybody to stand with him. But Stretch tells him plainly that he can't do it alone. Lefty chuckles that he's got a perfect willingness to die, and that gives him a moral on this bunch of mad dogs. They thrive on fear, and he doesn't have any fear left. Again, good fucking lines, dude. Like, I don't understand. He opens the door and guides her back into the hallway where the drunk cowboys are still running around. He bids her adios before closing the door. Alone in the room now, Lefty raises his hand and looks at it, repeating somberly, "I ain't got no fear, Lord."
Sheriff Whitell. But something just an aside that I thought was really cool, talking about utilizing your lower budget.
Mm-hmm.
This hotel room, quote unquote, is on the same floor as the radio station
What?
of that newspaper building.
Okay.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I will say too, and I honestly wasn't sure when to bring it up, but I think now is as good a place as any because it is a dropped plot point, and this is our first time seeing them together. But in the original screenplay, Lefty finds out that Stretch is his illegitimate daughter.
What?
And when the budget got cut, that storyline got cut. And Caroline Williams said that this, at its core, was a story about family. And when family is separated and then comes back together, or when family sticks together under whatever circumstances, and losing this dynamic between Stretch and Lefty really took away what fleshed the story out, is what she said.
I would like to see how that was presented.
Yeah. Before I say anything, yes.
And we never will. We'll never know.
Yeah.
But it adds an interesting thing because it is this cannibalistic family, and then
Right.
you have these.
The dichotomy of it. Yeah.
So that would have been pretty interesting.
It would
Okay.
have.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But whatever dynamic is left over is very odd and confusing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like maybe there's just no remnant of that at all, because I don't know, some things that happen later. I hope somebody wouldn't do that to their kids.
Yeah.
But I know I would do it to my kids. What do I know? But LG sits at a diner making a cabin out of French fries. Stretch makes her way over, maneuvering through a cluster of patrons and muttering angrily under her breath.
The way the camera found LG, I thought of Homer with the mashed potatoes
Okay.
making the circus tent. Yeah.
I thought, and John Paul and I were rewatching it before you got here, and he thought the same thing. The way that it's edited and cut, I thought that LG was waiting for her in the lobby of the hotel.
Yeah.
That's also, utilizing your budget when you're filming a lot of things at the same
In the
location.
same place, yeah.
It is going to kind of bleed into each other.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, we're at a fucking
Yeah, we're
cook-off.
somewhere else.
Yeah. In the next room.
Yeah.
Right next door. This scene as well, Caroline Williams said that this was her first scene that she shot.
Oh.
And it was also the first time she met Lou Perryman, and she said there was just an instant connection. They were friends immediately.
Okay.
But she sits down in the chair next to him, still frustrated when she sets down her purse and concludes, hard ass. LG looks down at his own ass seated in the chair and questions, hard ass? Me? He admits that maybe a semi-hard ass, but he's got a soft heart. He gets back to work on his project, sticking the pieces of a chimney together with ketchup as he implores her, looky, I built you a little fry house. Stretch calls his name annoyed. LG! But when he looks up and asks, what, darling? She can't help but smile and soften to, oh, LG.
Well, the Fry House was very impressive.
It was really cool.
Honestly.
Yeah, but how many orders did it take to do that?
Yeah. How long have you been here?
I think it's a company write-off.
Yeah.
They're there for work. Give me 10 orders of fries.
Yes.
A bell rings and draws their attention to the front of the room, where we close in on the top of a tall trophy. The top is in the shape of the state of Texas, and inscribed on it is Texas Oklahoma Chili Cook-Off Grand Competition. There's a small cauldron set atop where someone ladles in chili that drips down the trophy. The Chili Cook-Off host rings the bell again and implores everyone in her soft southern voice to hush up and listen, y'all. Stretch snatches up her microphone and hurries over with LG in tow behind her. The host wonders, is the Chili Cook-Off champion from Norman, Oklahoma? No. Waco, Texas? Tulsa? Nope. Austin? Stretch and LG stand by, waiting for her to finally make the announcement. He's Dallas's favorite caterer, and she thinks he's kind of cute.
Really?
I know. That's what you do.
Okay.
It's the scariest.
There's a kind of terrifying vibe.
Yeah.
And I was defending fucking Jack Nicholson and the Witches of Eastwick.
Uh-huh.
And even I'm scared.
We've defended Leatherface.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
And even this, I'm like, this is a choice. No accounting for taste.
Maybe we talked to somebody about that. The last Roundup Rolling Grill chef, Drayton Sawyer. The crowd cheers as the winner of the chili cook-off approaches with a big smile. Drayton Sawyer, also known as the Cook, played again by Jim Sedow. So again, at this point, I'm sitting up in my chair.
Yes.
Yeah, we did talk about him in the first movie.
Of course, yeah. And I'm like, he's back. He's cooking still. He just won a fucking chili cook-off, which is horrifying.
Yeah.
The fucking, I don't even know what word to ascribe to this of him deciding to enter a competition.
Yeah.
It was bad enough when you were running the gas
gall?
station barbecue restaurant, but you're like, you know what would be really funny? Or maybe it's a pride thing. He's like, it's damn good barbecue.
I think he is proud.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it's made
Well,
of.
and no, don't ask questions. And she said Dallas's favorite caterer. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is like a thing.
Yeah.
Like, we're not just doing gas station barbecue anymore. Like,
We're all eating people.
we're
Yeah.
all, whether you know it or not. But Drayton Sawyer's all smiles as he approaches the announcer, who throws her arms around him in a hug. As he takes possession of his trophy, she points at him, adding that this is the second year in a row that he's won. So now he needs to share the secret to his fabulous, tasty chili. She even dips a spoon into the top of the trophy and eats a bite of the chili as the cook steps in front of the microphone. He admits that there's no secret. It's the meat. Don't skimp on the meat. He says that he's got a real good eye for prime meat. It runs in the family. Meanwhile, the host has taken something resembling a bone out of her mouth.
Yeah.
And she looks at it confused. The cook takes it out of her hand and chuckles. Those hard-shelled peppercorns.
And they're just like, Dallas's favorite son.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
It's a tooth.
what did you just...
Fuck.
This elicits a gentle laugh through the crowd, and even Stretch is smiling. The cook shares that he loves this town. This town knows prime meat. He beams and smiles as the people around him cheer. As the crowd thins, Stretch reports on her own microphone the big story. Texas clobbers Oklahoma in chili. She signs off as Stretch, their fearless reporter live from Dallas. LG cuts the feed.
This is where an advertisement on Tubi came in, but it gave me time to marinate and really consider. Yeah, oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
How good her radio voice is.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
I know we mentioned it earlier, but this was the moment that I was
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
Outside of Cut-Right Chainsaws, a car parks and a man gets out and heads inside. Lefty pulls up in his own vehicle, a cigarette jutting from between his lips. As a practicing school band marches by, Lefty adjusts the radio to find Stretch's voice, warning her listeners not to drink and drive this wild weekend. As she signs off, he cranks his keys, cutting the engine and her voice. Inside the store, the Cut-Right manager, played by James N. Harrell, answers the phone, explaining to the caller that he hasn't seen Fletcher, so he must be on the road then. As he goes back and forth with the caller when he's not believed, Lefty steps into the store and walks straight to the back where the chainsaws are displayed. The manager tells the sheriff that he'll be right with him before telling the person on the phone not to call back because he's got a business to run here, and Fletcher isn't his business. You think he's talking about Fletcher from Liar Liar?
Oh.
why do we keep doing this? I don't understand.
This movie got a whole lot better.
Imagine that crossover. But Lefty takes a fat stack of hundreds out of his pocket and lays them fanned out on the stump in the middle of the store.
I'm sawing my own ass.
It would fit right in. But then he picks up a chainsaw. His phone call ended now. The manager comes over and asks what he's doing, but Lefty is lost in thought. He stares forward, setting the chainsaw down wordlessly. He turns back to the shelf and picks up another one. He tests its weight in his hand, waving it around and causing the manager to back up out of his way. He grabs another, a chainsaw in each hand, one red and one yellow. He eyes the manager as he slides his sunglasses back on, takes all 3 chainsaws, and starts toward the door. The manager calls after him, asking if he doesn't want to test him out. There's gas in them. He collects the money and follows Lefty out the front door, still imploring him to test out the chainsaws on the wooden logs out front. Lefty listens, setting down the smaller 2 chainsaws and lifting the larger silver one. He pulls the cord until it roars to life. Lefty raises the saw high above his head, the smoke billowing over to the manager, who stares at him with a horrified expression. The lieutenant brings the weapon down onto the wood again and again, hacking out pieces and sending debris flying. The manager can only lament, "Oh, my aching banana." But Lefty just keeps attacking the piece of wood. I don't know why. I don't know why he said that.
A little decorum.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Maybe he really likes it. He's like, please test out the chainsaws.
He's like, I'm in the right business for what I like.
It's the reason he's not moving from behind that railing.
But he bashes the chainsaws down on the wood, carving out pieces. He spits out the debris flying into his face and mouth, and the manager's horror turns to joy as he lets loose a giggle.
That's clearly not Dennis Hopper in the wide shots, right?
No, dude.
Just making sure.
It looked pretty hilarious. I feel like, though, if I run a chainsaw shop and I'm like, it's already a red flag that he came in and bought 3 of them.
Yes.
That's already odd. Maybe he's running a business. Maybe he's got employees. Maybe they're all, doing whatever innocent thing you can do with chainsaws. But the way that he's attacking this wood out front.
Yeah.
I don't think I would let him leave with these.
Well, the way he was practicing with them inside, I still would have been like,
That-
wait,
that
hold
as well.
on.
So that seems a bit murderous.
Yeah.
And I do understand, like, he's thinking fighting fire with fire.
Yeah.
Right.
Trying to get inside the head of a dog.
That's what I was going to ask.
But then at the same time, and I was like, okay, I can understand that. But then I was like, you know what? I actually don't understand that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this. It's like, well, they use chainsaws, so I'm going to.
That's what makes it weird. I don't.
It is odd. And it only gets odder. But the chainsaw's roar is finally silenced when we cut to Lefty sitting outside of the radio station. When Stretch pulls up and gets out of her vehicle, she's all smiles, admitting that this is hard to believe. Sucking on his cigarette, Lefty tells her decisively that he'd like to hear that tape. Stretch muses that he came all the way up to Burke Burnett. After a beat, she understands that he's wanting to hear it now, but he clarifies he wants to hear it on the radio. Stretch refuses on the grounds that she doesn't think it's legal with the FCC regulations. She sits down next to Lefty, who tosses his cigarette away and advises that she just figure out how to do it and then do it. Bend the rules. Stretch stands and scoffs, but before she starts up the stairs, she stops to ask why. Lefty says that it's because the killers are here. Kill sites have been clustered all over Northeast Texas for the last 2 years, but the laws shy away from piecing them together as murder. They're called accidents or disappearances. He implores her. She's got that last slaughter on tape. Play it on the radio. Maybe then the laws will stop trying to shut him up and start finally helping him. He points out that it'll give her something real to do. But Stretch reminds him that he told her he wanted to do this alone. Lefty sighs before telling her, I need your help, Missy. Stretch sits back down, inviting him to call her Stretch. And when she extends her hand, he tells her in kind to call him Lefty. They shake, and he shares that it's mighty nice doing business with her. Stretch smiles, and when Lefty tells her to have a nice day, she returns the sentiment and then heads upstairs to the K-Okla radio station. Alone again, Lefty looks pensive.
Again with the flip-flop. I don't, what was the motivation now? Like, what is like, no, you actually do need her help, so if you can go ask for it. It's like, well,
I don't know.
And it seemed very much like he was taking matters into his own hands. He threw her out of his room.
Yeah.
He went and bought 3 chainsaws.
Yeah.
And he's like, actually, I'm going to go up to Burke Burnett.
I would like to hear that too.
Yeah. It was odd.
Yeah.
We cut to a food truck rolling by on the road with the cook behind the wheel. He literally sings his own praises, chuckling through his self-aggrandizing song that he did it again. Number 1. The Sawyers are number 1. He cackles and we glide over to the chili cook-off trophy riding shotgun. So Carson said that the first thing that they did was decide that the yuppies were the victims. That was the first order of business. The second order of business was naming this family.
Okay. I feel it's wordplay. It's fun.
Yeah.
I in this moment, I was like, oh, the rolling grill.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Uh-huh.
So you can just do this anywhere.
Yeah.
But again, that is so scary and upsetting and gross. And like, it's not, I don't think it's utilized.
It's not, and I understand the identifying them, but I still think too, if we only had like his name, no last name, no whatever, it's Mr. Drayton. That's it. Oh, we have no idea what their last name or who the hell they are.
There is something that is very unnerving about the first film with it just being the cook, the hitchhiker, grandpa. You know what I mean? That is like, ugh, like, you know, almost like this effigy or this like symbol of something without being a real person. That is creepy. So I get that. I still think Sawyer's is kind of cute. At the radio station, Stretch looks worriedly at the cassette tape as the station's theme plays. Her voice somber. She tells her listeners that this is a special request that they're doing this afternoon and tonight. She says that the steady listeners know they're doing this every hour. But this is for Lefty. She winces as the tape begins to play, filling her ears with the roaring of Leatherface's chainsaw and Buzz's frantic and profanity-laced cries.
You're going to get in a lot of trouble for something like that.
Oh, yeah. I thought one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody is stopping her. She's playing this every hour. Nobody's
And I'm
calling
sorry,
her
but
boss.
anybody's like, I actually tuned in to hear Oingo Boingo. Not 2 annoying kids being killed. Thank you.
That's true. How much actual music are we getting? How long does
Thank
that
you.
take?
I don't know. It's an entirety.
He wouldn't hang up.
Well, I was going to say, it feels like we were on that
That's
phone
true.
for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But in the food truck, the cook is still laughing loudly alone when he hears his phone start to ring. He answers it happily, boasting, "Last roundup rolling grill, we're still number 1. But his mirth dissipates when he begins to admonish the caller. "I told you, boys, don't call on this phone, damn it." He tells them to get off, but before he can disconnect the call, he's like, "What's on the radio?" He adjusts the antenna on the radio in front of him, warning the caller not to bullshit him as he searches for the station. With one hand on the dial and one hand holding the phone and no hands on the wheel, he confirms worriedly that this ain't no joke. The same clip that we heard at the station comes through at the last roundup rolling grill, the screaming chainsaw and Buzz's pleas. In the horror the cook experiences hearing this carnage, he lets loose a slew of slurs, cursing the caller, crying that they'll be the death of him yet. Before dissolving into sobs, the cook skids off the road and parks on the shoulder, where we can still hear the chainsaw ringing out. He does not take this well. I didn't understand what all the slurs were about. They do continue.
Yeah, they do. He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
I think like what shocks me about this is he's taking this so hard as if they're gonna be investigated or something. It's like
shit.
you can just go to a different town in Texas. You're the rolling
Dude,
grill.
they love him in Dallas though.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of good,
He's literally just won the trophy.
He did. Then you won. Go somewhere else.
Go in somewhere.
Take your talents to,
your bone
Try
chilling.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
LG answers the phone at the radio station, but Stretch sits on the other side of the glass, listening to the very last of Rick's screams before the crunching of the car crash. She checks her watch, questioning under her breath where Lefty is. Once the tape ends, she takes it out of the player and leans into the mic, announcing the end of the broadcast day. She rattles off that it's 1 a.m. in New York, a fun city, 10 at night in LA, party time. But deep in the heart of Texas, it's 12 midnight. Ain't nothing going on.
FCC on line 1.
Oh, Stretcher in a lot. She leans away from the mic and plays the Star-Spangled Banner. LG tells her over his own mic that was another cussin' caller and her little ass is going to be in big trouble over that tape. But Stretch rebuts simply, nope. She jots down on her clipboard and doesn't look back up until LG enters the room with a sigh. She looks up at him expectantly, but when all he does is hawks and spits, she lowers her eyes, and I did too.
Yeah, don't do that in here.
That's gross
He's
as shit,
inside.
dude. Yeah.
We have to walk around here.
Yeah.
Finally, LG points out that she did get a lot of complaints, but Stretch reminds him that it was a request, right? It's listed in the logs as a request, and people complain about the requests every night, right? I don't think that's doing what you think.
No.
LG agrees unenthusiastically before crossing the room and dropping his cowboy hat on the clipboard she's jotting on. He asks if she wants to go for a coffee at Big Steak. But Stretch stands with a smile, grabbing up his hat and pushing it against his chest as she leads him back to the door with a definite nope. But LG comes back in, realizing that she's waiting on that guy, Lefty. Stretch pats his arm comfortingly before telling him goodnight. He returns it grumpily and heads down the hall with a disgruntled, God damn it. He hawks and spits again on his way to the door, but something stops him in his tracks. Stretch puts on another song as he rips the door to the stairs open, a red light shining down there. He heads down the stairs, muttering, shit. Now everybody hold on.
No.
Hold on. When the phone rings, Stretch answers it. But when no one answers her, after multiple hellos, she asks if it's Lefty. The caller hangs up. We pan across the studio as the music plays, but when there's the loud clanging of metal from elsewhere in the station, Stretch sits up with a start. She goes to investigate, calling out for LG, but when she's met with more clattering, she asks instead, Lefty? Stretch leans out into the hallway and we press in behind her, but when she turns, there's no one there. She goes down the hall, investigating the storage room on the way, but finding nothing. She slows when she approaches the door that LG went through, watching as a shadow moves past the window. Stretch finally pulls the door open, gently calling Lefty's name, but she freezes at the top of the stairs, bathed in the glowing red light of the room, technically making the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, 1986. A Giallo film.
It's like being told to wait to get punched in the face.
I always have John Paul. I didn't even have him with this one.
Thank you. Finally.
Yeah, that's a little too far.
I don't make the goddamn rules. I don't know why we're covering 2 Giallos in a row, but here we are.
I'm struggling. I am actively struggling.
I'm about to get fired. Fired from my own company. But on the couch, in the shadows between the swirling and strobing lamps, is Chop Top, played by Bill Moseley.
Bill Moseley. We talked about him before. House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, Night of the Living Dead remake.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. I love Bill Moseley.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like even though this character, for me, becomes quite grating
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
and is very loud,
Yes.
I think that he is incredibly committed to the performance here.
Yeah.
And there are times where it's clear that he's not even the focus and he is all
He's on.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very similar years later with what we see him do with Otis Driftwood, where it's like whether you are into the character, into the movie or not, it cannot be denied that he is giving everything he has to that character.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a bravo I will give him. You
Yes.
committed to this dude.
1,000%.
I do not care for him. This character is.
I don't think anybody's a big fan. No,
but I can understand how a character with so much character
right
becomes iconic in the fan base.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Because there's a lot to this character.
Yes.
Bill Moseley, in an interview that I watched with him on that making of, said that he first saw the first film when it came out, and that it really bummed him out. And so he said it was very scary, very dark and bleak. He would go on, though, to make a spoof with his friend called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where he would play a character based off of The Hitchhiker.
Mm-hmm.
So he ended up going to visit a friend who was a screenwriter, and he was like, let me show you this like dumb thing that we did. So he shows it to his friend, and they kind of just watched it for laughs. But his friend is like, you should give me a copy. I work right down the hall from Tobe Hooper.
Wow.
He's like, he would love this. So he gives him a copy. His friend shows it to Tobe Hooper. Tobe Hooper thought it was absolutely hilarious. And he said that if he ever made another one, he would keep Bill Moseley in mind. Bill Moseley's like, okay, like whatever.
Yeah.
But he says 2 years later, he gets a call asking where to send the script.
Okay.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But Tom Savini, I think he said this was like his second movie that he did. He was like first, second, something like that. But that it was very early in his career. And Tom Savini called him the morale of the shoot, that he kept everybody laughing. He was like always in a good mood, always game to do whatever, which I think does come through.
Yes.
I feel like that doesn't surprise me about Bill Moseley. But yeah, I thought that was so funny. You go from making a fucking spoof of this movie to being one of the main characters in the sequel.
Yeah.
And it feels like Tobe Hooper did the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Chop Top tells her casually that he wants to buy some radio ad time.
Why are we doing this? Like, it feels like so. But I mean, it's very in line with the prank of the corpse on the back of the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just who the Sawyers are.
Right.
And this is I feel like it should have been Chop Top in the back of the truck.
Oh yeah.
I do think that reveal where when they shoot the body and it falls and you see Leatherface, I think that is a cool reveal, but it just Leatherface would not be doing that. Like,
No.
I think that we can hypothesize, I guess, that it's Chop Top driving.
Which is really funny because we would have heard him.
Yes, it's that.
1,000%. Stretch reacts angrily, asking him if he's fucking crazy. She starts down the stairs, emphatic that they are closed and off air until tomorrow. But when she reaches the bottom of the steps, she stops, cutting herself off from telling him that he'll have to come back. Chop Top looks around him in amazement, musing, whoa, so this is Radioland, huh? The infinite turtle? The waves through the ether fuzz roll on forever? He widens his arms, a twisted hanger gripped in one hand, as he produces a grating example, dragging out the word roar. Stretch stares as he continues quickly that he knows what she's thinking. This is weird, but I can handle it. He chuckles as he rises to his feet, revealing his yellowed and rotting teeth, too big for his mouth, the purple sunglasses over his eyes, his askew black hair, and his vest dotted with pins. He brings his fingers to the tip of the hanger and licks them before intoning, "You're my fave." He shares that he and his little brother Bubba listen to Stretch every night. As Stretch trembles, he lowers the hanger and presents a peace sign in its place, vowing, "Music is my life." He closes the gap between them, gushing that she's his fave, but he gets too embarrassed to call in with his requests. It feels too disembodied. He flicks a lighter, heating the tip of the hanger in its flame, and then bringing the hanger up to the side of his head. He chuckles as his skin sizzles, reasoning that now that they're here in flesh and blood, he could make his request and it would still count, huh? Stretch tries to play cool, nodding and agreeing that it would. Chop Top brings his fingers to the hanger again and licks them as he ponders. Well, how about Iron Butterfly? He laughs excitedly, incorrectly reciting the lyrics. It's heavy. He adds that he's never been to a radio station before. Does she think she could give him a tour?
It was bad enough, everything leading up to the hanger situation.
Yeah.
But you fucking eating that thing?
Yes.
That's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even have a reaction. He keeps doing it too. But
He does it a lot.
it's technically barbecue.
Ew. It is. That's what they like.
Yeah. It's something interesting I forgot to mention last week on A Bay of Blood, but there was a section of music that was clearly inspired by Iron Butterfly in Agata Davida.
Yeah.
And so for 2 weeks in a row to
The
hear,
song, yeah.
it's very interesting.
He shifts his attention to his lighter as he dips the tip of the hanger into the flame once again. As he brings the heated hanger to his face once more, Stretch agrees to the tour, but it'll be a seriously quick one and it'll end at the exit sign. Chop Top agrees to the terms excitedly, and Stretch starts the tour with the desk behind her. She switches on the lamp as she announces it, and the typewriter. There's a rubber man and a stuffed plushie armadillo and a stick with the shark's head at the end of it. As she makes it chomp its jaws, she nervously introduces Mr. Shark. Chop Top cackles at this, but we're in tight on Stretch as she continues the tour. Some flowers, a Rolodex, and here's a lamp. She turns it on and focuses its beam right in Chop Top's face. Chop Top does not like this, and he smacks it out of her hand with a cry. Stretch points behind him, and there's the exit sign. Tour's over. Chop Top glances at the sign on the wall, bathing the room in its ominous red glow, but instead of obeying it, he laughs. He lights the hanger again and brings it to the side of his head, scratching it against his black hair. He walks over to the sign and points at each letter with the hanger, playfully intoning, E-X-I-T, exit. Stretch bids him goodnight, and Chop Top returns the sentiment with a smile and a wave. He flicks his lighter again, lights the hanger. Stretch repeats herself emphatically, good night, and Chop Top responds in kind, friendly, smiling. He brings the lit tip of the hanger up to his head where he scratches his scalp with it, lost in the sensation. Stretch tells him again in disbelief, good night. Chop Top replies in a high-pitched voice with a smile and a wave, good night. He laughs and turns his attention back to the hanger. Stretch stares, dumbstruck, but Chop Top snaps back to the matter at hand. What about his request? He brings up Lefty's request, the one that she honked out today. He loves that. He recalls it, mimicking the grinding roar of the chainsaw, the pews of the gunshots, the screaming of the victims, raising his hands, shaking his head, and wagging his tongue as he cries out in mockery. Scratching his head again with the heated hanger, he asks, what was that anyway? The Rambo 3 soundtrack? He takes the hanger from his scalp, pulls something from the end of it, and eats it. He steps toward her again, dragging the top of the hanger against the wall like Freddy Krueger's claws when he asks her, could you play it again? He sure would like it. He wonders if maybe he could get a copy and she could autograph it for him to a far-out fan. Stretch cowers with her hands up in surrender as he approaches, but easily distracted, Chop Top looks over into the dark room next to them and asks what's in there. Stretch tells him in a small voice that it's the record vault, and he's like, oh, where you keep the golden oldies, but maybe the new music is in. But suddenly the light in this room comes on, illuminating Leatherface and his hungry, roaring chainsaw. He stumbles out as Stretch and Chop Top both move away, but the blade of the chainsaw catches on Chop Top's head, where it sparks and knocks him to the ground. Him going down like that it looked really fucking funny.
It did.
It did.
And I will say, Leatherface bounding out of there,
Yeah.
it startled me.
Yeah, well, no, you're not expecting it at all.
No.
Stretch watches from the stairs as Chop Top gets back on his feet and reprimands Leatherface. Ow, not me, you ass. Get the girl. Stretch runs screaming back up toward the studio, and after Leatherface recalibrates, he rushes after her. She does the only thing she can think to do. She yanks the fire extinguisher off the wall and sprays Leatherface as he approaches. This is enough to send him off balance, and he falls to the ground, grunting and whining, giving Stretch enough time to run into the storage area, slide the big metal door closed, and lock it. Leatherface quickly gets to his feet and goes after the door, rattling the lock. Downstairs, Chop Top has lost his mussed black wig. Errant strands of hair cling to his scalp that is adorned with the shiny metal plate in the side of his head. He whines. He dented my plate. He complains that his brain is burning. He rubs the dented metal, crying out, "Nom flashback." So now we see Chop Top's final form.
Yes.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So this was what I remembered this whole little scene here.
Okay.
From when she goes downstairs, he's sitting there up into a little bit after this.
Okay.
But I remember being confused as fuck. I remember just being a kid and being like, I don't understand what I'm seeing. Like, what's happening? And I'll be honest, I still kind of feel that way right now.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I think that there's a lot that could be said. Like we talked about, so that there is so much social commentary in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
I think there is a lot here with Chop Top, with his constant screaming about Vietnam and his injuries from being in Vietnam. Like, I feel like there is a lot that could be said here, and maybe it still is being said, but I think it's so overshadowed because they I guess it's played for laughs.
Yeah.
And I mean, you think about he's dressed as a hippie.
Yeah.
With all the pins, the peace sign,
Yeah.
far out, all this stuff, and then also this on top of it. There has to be something there. I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just like it's like it's there and you can put it together if you want, but we're going to just have him screaming for the next 45 minutes, you know?
I also, just on the side, I thought that he was sent here for like intimidation.
No.
And like, you better stop playing that tape.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And then Leatherface bounds out of the thing. But something interesting that I did think whenever I was watching it is American Psycho. Whenever Patrick Bateman does the chainsaw bit,
Yeah.
it's because he was watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
And then when he gets gets hit in the face or kicked in the face when she's going away, and he's like, "Not the face!" It reminded me of "Not the plate."
Yeah.
Like, so I'm like,
okay.
I feel like you're referencing both films.
I
Right,
can
right.
see that for sure. I also was with the fire extinguisher thinking about Green Room.
Yes.
Okay.
Very fair. And that sliding door is Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah. Like in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that scene is so fucking scary.
Oh,
in
it
the first
is.
one. Oh my God.
Jigsaw does that too, doesn't he?
He does.
Sure does.
That's the game over.
Yeah.
That is the same building. No, I'm just kidding.
Actually. But Tom Savini had said that he told Bill Moseley it would save like an hour and a half and make it easier on the effects crew if he shaved his head and they didn't have to do a bald cap. Bill Moseley said, "I would have shaved my ass and walked backwards for that part." So he shaved his head. The makeup took 4 hours still.
Wow.
Damn.
Even with them shaving his head. Tom Savini said that Bill Moseley, because his makeup took so long every day, hung out with Tom Savini's crew so much that they became friends and would hang out socially. And to do all the work for Chop Top, they did a bust, like a cast of Bill Moseley. And at the time of that interview, which I think was the early 2000s, Tom Savini still had it in his yard. He still had it at his house. But Chop Top sinks to his knees next to his smoking wig, yelling, "Leatherface, you bitch hog!" He lifts it, imploring him to just look at what he did to his Sonny Bono wig. He turns to the stairs, warning that now Leatherface is going to have to buy him a new plate cover. He moans, draping the wig around his neck before his fingers return to his metal plate, feeling the groove that the chainsaw cut into it.
Now we're spending a lot of time on Chop Top's recovery.
Yeah. No, we are.
I thought much more interesting to me is keeping the tension of stretch.
Stretch.
Yes. No. Yeah. No, you're correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Chop Top's recovery.
We are.
It is.
He's really upset,
I
guys.
was like, and my wig. It's like, dude, yes. We
saw
got
it.
It's the kind of thing that makes me wonder what was on the page and how much was them telling Bill Moseley, "Look, you're Chop Top, you're upset."
Yeah.
That's true.
Because that's what it feels like.
It does.
And they're just giving him the room to do
flop
whatever.
around,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Chop Top also laments. that he's going to go back to the VA hospital with the dent in his plate. But he peels off a piece of his scalp, red and irritated around the metal, and puts it in his mouth. So he's self-soothing. Nature is healing. He brings the hanger up and scratches at the plate, and he chuckles, reasoning that at least Leatherface didn't mess him up. He rubs against his scalp and licks his fingers as he stands. His mind on his business again, he realizes dog will hunt. He turns toward the stairs, cheering Leatherface on. Get that bitch! And he chuckles again. Dog will hunt.
You know, honestly, I feel like if these were intercut with Stretch being fearful in the thing,
Yeah.
I think it would work a lot better.
We were
Yeah.
down here for a while.
Yeah, just one long. It's like, where? I thought you said the editor was on set. He's like, no, leave all this. Leave it all in.
He wasn't done editing what he was doing. It's like, hold on,
true.
just keep
We
going.
weren't done writing. We weren't done editing. Leatherface is crying out and moaning as he attacks the metal door with his chainsaw. Inside, Stretch sobs, clutching the fire extinguisher to her chest and screaming at Leatherface to go away. Meanwhile,
I guess. Back to Chop Top. And even with all the jokes, I do want to say dog will hunt. Great.
it is really good, yes. But Chop Top is busying himself downstairs, going through the records in the vault. So, he's having a great time.
Like riff on all the items
Yeah.
that you find.
He tosses them to the side and yells again for Leatherface to hurry up and get that bitch. As Leatherface pounds at the door with the screaming blade of his chainsaw and Stretch sobs inside the room, Chop Top playfully flings records away as he shuffles through them. He laughs that he loves music. Leatherface drags the chainsaw across the door one more time before it dies. Stretch trembles, still holding the fire extinguisher close, but Leatherface moans in frustration, shaking his failed weapon. Stretch looks around the room, reminding herself in a repeated mantra, they live on fear. They live on fear. They live on fear. Outside, LG pulls up and parks behind Stretch's Jeep. He holds 2 cups of coffee and is singing to himself, living his best life until he spots the truck parked outside the station. He starts up the stairs, but looks back at it with confusion. He finally spits down on it and hurries up the stairs to the station as an ominous score climbs. LG lets himself in, calling Stretch darling again when he asks if she knows that the door was unlocked. Stretch doesn't answer, and LG hurries up the stairs to the studio, but he turns back when he hears something. This is when he sees Chop Top crouching in the vault as he slides the records into his bag, which is hilarious
Yeah.
because he was stealing them.
Yes. Yeah.
Music is his life.
Wow.
Clearly. He yells, "Hey!" But Chop Top just grins up at him and continues what he's doing. And LG asks, "What the shit?" Fed up, Chop Top fires back, inviting him to lick my plate, you dog dick. He flips him off, but LG demands to know what the fuck he thinks he's doing in here. He calls Chop Top a crazy looking son of a bitch, and Chop Top lives up to this accusation, scowling, sticking out his tongue and taunting. LG tells him to get out of here.
It's like, Stretch, there's a monster downstairs.
Yeah. Dude, as soon as you see him, just throw the coffee in his face.
Yeah,
Like, oh, I'm not,
honestly.
yeah, fuck that.
He's not here for anything good.
No.
And he's stealing.
Yeah.
The monster, and he's fucking a thief.
Yeah, dude, he gets what he gets.
But he's knocked down the stairs when Leatherface comes crashing through the door with his gnawing chainsaw and bashes into him. LG goes sprawling down onto the desk below, and Chop Top is thrilled. He pounces on LG with the hammer, bringing it down on his head again and again. LG thrashes between the blows, another one of his trademark spits shooting up from his lips again. Chop Top intones that it's time for incoming mail. He brings the hammer down harder on LG's head, spraying his blood, and he hits him so hard that he has to hold his glasses back on as he cries out for Ho Chi Minh. Again, okay.
Yeah.
LG's pleading hands reach up, but the more Chop Top strikes him, the quieter his cries become. Finally, he dissolves into involuntary spasms, knocking his boots against the floor as his body thrashes. And this does bring to mind the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Leatherface starts his chainsaw again and sprints up the stairs, holding it over his head and crying out when he reaches the door to the room where Stretch still hides. She arms herself with a sharp piece of metal and approaches the door. But when she hears Leatherface's chainsaw skidding across its surface, she stops. The chainsaw finally quiets and Leatherface starts to shake the door, rattling it in its frame. Stretch cowers, begging him to leave her alone and go away. And after a moment, he stops trying to open the door. Stretch backs away from it, still keeping her eyes on it as she does. But that's when Leatherface Kool-Aid Man's through the wall next to her, knocking down boxes of drinks in his pursuit. I was like, what the
Yeah.
He did. Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's where the faculty... No, I'm just kidding. Stretch falls and scrambles out of the way as Leatherface swings his chainsaw. She screams when he raises it above his head and saws off the blades of the fan, and he brings it down on the cooler filled with ice and drinks.
Not to lend credence to what you said, but the same production designer did the faculty as well.
Shut the hell up.
Yeah.
We got this wall.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think about using it. Downstairs, Chop Top is still having the time of his life, bludgeoning LG and soaking the floor in his blood as he laughs and mimics his victim's cries. Sprayed with the ice and drinks launched by Leatherface's chainsaw, Stretch continues to scream and beg him, please don't. He continues thrusting the blade into the ice, eyeing Stretch from her position on top of the ice chest with her legs spread. Finally, he turns the chainsaw off and points it toward her. Stretch sobs, "Are you mad at me?" When he levels the silent chainsaw toward her face, she asks, "How mad at me are you?" But when he glances back over his shoulder, she realizes that he's not really mad at her. From behind his mask, he eyes her, licking his lips, staring at Stretch with wide eyes. She asks him, "How good are you?" Leatherface lifts his chainsaw and eyes it. He lowers it, grunting softly as he presses the blade gently against her boot, making contact. He turns when Chop Top's voice floats up to him, demanding again that he get that bitch. But Stretch just asks again in a measured whisper, "How good are you?" Leatherface drags the blade of the chainsaw softly up Stretch's bare leg and toward her shorts. Stretch asks him in between pants, "Really? Is he really, really good?" Leatherface's tongue explores his lips, jutting out erratically as he presses the tip of the blade between Stretch's legs. And she tells him that he is really good. He's the best. Leatherface trembles and grunts as he thrusts forward against his chainsaw, keeping the tip pressed against Stretch. Finally, his hand frantically searches for the pull cord and he yanks it, trying to bring his weapon back to life. It stalls, and by the time he gets it started, Stretch has jumped out of the way. She screams, flattening herself against the wall as Leatherface spins with his chainsaw and brings it down against pallets of stored drinks. Stretch begs him not to kill her as Leatherface wrecks the room in a frenzy. He lifts the chainsaw above his head, writhing and screaming before leaving the way he came, through the hole in the wall connecting to the studio. He rushes in there, plunging the blade through the glass windows of the booth. He destroys the entire wall before turning back to Stretch, and he lowers the chainsaw to his crotch and thrusts it forward at her, and even Stretch is like, ugh.
I think we were all...
We're all very confused. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to speak for everyone, but again, this is not the Leatherface that I know.
No.
Caroline Williams had said that she was very nervous about this ice bucket scene, but she figured it would be fine as long as the camera wasn't down low and shooting up her legs. Then she came on set, and that's exactly where the camera was. They even gave her like more covering underwear in case her shorts slipped and something was seen.
Right.
So she's like, this is gonna be
Yeah.
like right up in my business.
Yeah.
And she said that it was real ice, so it was freezing and wet, and it was just a very difficult scene to do.
Yeah.
I feel like, and again, this is the beginning of the story arc where Leatherface is apparently in love with Stretch, and Carson had said that this was supposed to be satirizing John Hughes, which I guess is why we get the cover that we get. I don't think John Hughes invented falling in love.
It's like nobody else is doing that.
Yeah. I was going to say, what?
I don't know.
This happened in a John Hughes movie?
No.
Or I don't.
I am very puzzled by all of this.
It's very odd. It's very odd. It's really weird. It's not what again, Leatherface is really out of pocket.
Yes.
It's I don't ever expect Leatherface to want some cat. There's no like he's chill. I don't
What I thought, it seemed very clear that the chainsaw is an extension of himself.
Oh yeah, oh no.
Correct.
And so his reaction to it after being there for a little
There was some
while,
spasming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe that was like implying like a premature situation.
Right.
Okay.
And then he destroys the room.
Yeah.
And then he thrusts at her aggressively.
Yeah,
And so I'm like,
yeah.
actually, it turns out I don't know what the fuck's going on.
No, yeah. It's like I was wrong.
Yeah, completely. I thought I had it.
Yeah. That
Truly
killed
don't
everything.
Yeah, it's like, oh, never mind.
But Leatherface turns and runs downstairs, I guess in his post-nut clarity,
Yeah.
presumably. I don't know. But Chop Top is down there busying himself in the record vault again while LG lies motionless on the floor. When Chop Top sees him, he rushes over, asking, "Did you get that bitch?"
He's like, we just talked.
Anything else? Just doesn't fucking lie.
What'd you hear?
Leatherface glances back up at the stairs and nods, lying. Chop Top laughs that she was his favorite, but she knew, and now nobody knows. He gets distracted, looking down at LG's cowboy hat on the desk, and he suddenly remembers the beef he has with Leatherface. Chop Top turns his head, displaying his plate and yelling at Leatherface to look at what he did to it. But he abruptly switches gears again, laughing. "You got her? You got her good?" Leatherface nods again. When Chop Top presents his hand and tells Leatherface to slap him 5, he does. Chop Top brags that he got one too, a bonus body. He lowers himself down to LG, slapping his stomach and telling Leatherface to just look at that beef. They drag LG's body out of frame, but Chop Top hurries back in, giggling as he takes LG's cowboy hat and perches it on his own head. He laughs, "Giddy up," as he hurries out of the station. It's only after they slam the door that Stretch comes down from where she'd cowered against the wall. She surveys the damage in the studio before realizing in a whisper that they're gonna get away. They can't get away. She hurries out onto the landing outside and watches as Leatherface and Chop Top get in their blue truck with the American flag painted on the back. She's standing in full sight. I was like, bitch, what are we doing?
Leatherface is like, I just lied for you.
Get your ass down. But luckily they don't look up when they drive away. Stretch stares after them, lamenting, "God damn it, Lefty, you're late." She rushes down the stairs and gets into her Jeep. She damns Lefty again when she starts her vehicle and pulls away past LG's parked car. She speeds down the road. And so, like, I guess you said bonus body, like it's an extra body.
Mm-hmm.
So I was surprised that Chop Top didn't want to go back for Stretch.
That is
Like, that's the main body and LG's a bonus body, but they only took the bonus body.
Huh.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense because it could just be like, yeah, I trust you. And then they leave.
Yeah.
But if you came here for that purpose,
Yeah.
then it doesn't really, but we wouldn't have a third act.
Very true.
yeah.
Yeah. A pensive score plays as Stretch tails the truck. We watch as it pulls off into a quiet area. They pass the sign above a display of mountains and posed mannequins, Texas Battleland. And after a moment, Stretch pulls in too. She kills her headlights and watches as the truck pulls further onto the property.
I did read that this Texas Battleland situation was built inside of an abandoned amusement park called the Matterhorn that was in the area.
Oh.
Damn.
And so they just found it and utilized it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And this does look cool.
It does.
Like,
It does.
as we go on further, too. Finally, Stretch gets out of her Jeep and goes forward on foot to get a closer look at where they're going. But when another set of headlights fall upon her, she quickens into a sprint. The car barrels down on her and chases her through a covered path leading to a tunnel. She pauses when she sees the truck disappearing into this tunnel, but with this new vehicle still on her ass, she continues to run. It's not until the driver gets out and yells her name that she stops. She turns and identifies him with a sob. Lefty? And it is, standing and staring at her. But this moment of relief is short-lived when the ground below Stretch's feet cracks and breaks open, spilling a bright light into the night as Stretch falls through.
Can someone explain to me why Lefty was chasing her like
I don't
Yeah. What the hell was that?
He could have killed her. But
Yeah, after everything that he didn't do tonight,
Yeah.
you would think that there would be a little softer approach.
you would
Yeah.
think.
But instead he's just like chasing
Well,
her.
not only,
It's-
he could tell who she is.
Yes.
She might not be able to see him, but he can roll down the window and be like,
Hey,
stop.
Yeah. Lefty runs over as smoke plumes from the new hole in the ground, and when he reaches it, he finds Stretch entangled in vines, suspending her from falling into the lit room below. He implores her to hold on, but Stretch sobs that they came. Where was he? Lefty tells her that he had to do it. He admits, damn, I used you, girl. But he's here now. He grabs a skeletal arm and extends it to Stretch, instructing her to grab it. This is why I'm like, I hope that as his daughter, he's not like,
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
this bitch's bait. It's like, I'd never do that to my kids. I don't know about Lefty, but
And bait, I would think that's more of a distraction so I could get dinner. Like, I don't have to worry about you. I know where you guys are at.
yeah,
Look what's happened in this whole time. Now you're
Yes.
having to save me from a hole.
yes, yes.
And seriously, the radio station.
Yeah.
Literally anything could have happened.
Yeah.
Fucking LG.
LG, yeah.
He got beat to death or whatever.
And if Leatherface would have followed instructions, Stretch would be dead too.
Yeah.
So it's like, what did you get from that?
There's a missing reel.
There has to be.
Many, I think.
Yeah.
A couple at least. Stretch reaches out, and after a long moment, she finally grips the withered hand. But of course, the dusty old bones snap, producing a cloud of dust as Stretch goes tumbling down toward the room below, screaming. She falls for quite a long time
Yes.
Yeah.
in quite a few angles, even catching herself on a vine for a moment before ultimately being spit out onto a slide. Stretch screeches as she goes down the super fun happy slide, colliding with the dusty skeleton at the end. The floor breaks and she falls down even further. Lefty is watching all of this happen above and expresses a flat, "Oh my God." He looks at the bony arm in his hand and realizes what he's holding. Shocked, he tosses it to the side and sprints back to his car. Did you think that stick had a hand?
I know.
That was clearly an arm, dude.
Don't know.
After turning off the headlights, he opens his trunk and takes out his trusty new chainsaws. He looks up to the sky, and we pan down the man-made mountain to find Lefty, flanked between two stoic mannequins with their arms raised. He raises his head again, begging the Lord to help him beat this stranger beside him that takes away his strength. He asks to be shown the end, to be shown what he fears so he don't fear it no more. I thought he had no fear. With that done, he turns toward a gated tunnel with a bigger chainsaw in his hands and the other two strapped to each hip. They bob as he runs screaming toward the gate, stops to fling it open, and then sprints down the tunnel.
That's hilarious. Firstly.
It is.
And maybe that's why he wasn't at the radio station. He was getting these custom holsters made.
That was really important.
Yeah.
Inside, amongst the cobwebs, Lefty stands under a giant sculpted hand clutching a knife. He walks over to a mural depicting a battle, but he pauses. Blood begins to pour from the mouth of a man in a coonskin cap on the mural. Lefty's eyes travel down the wall to find a puddle of blood on the ground, where the small trail of blood from the mural joins it. Lefty kicks the wall with his boot, knocking a hole in it. A flood of red and glistening intestines launches from the hole, splattering onto the ground in a mound. Disgusted, Lefty mutters that this is the devil's playground. He turns on the chainsaw and it roars as he grits his teeth, declaring that he's going to bring it all down. He sinks the blade into wooden support beams and they collapse, raining down dust and rocks on him. But Lefty just cries out as he turns and runs into the next room. So Stretch is down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Great question.
Maybe we explore first before we start the cave in? This is just weird to me.
And no yelling. Why
Yeah,
are you screaming?
shut up.
I'm over here.
Yeah. Well, the chainsaw's it's doing enough. We traveled down the high ceiling where disembodied arms and legs, plump sausages, and hooks are suspended to find Stretch collapsed on the ground. She wakes up and looks around in fear as two familiar voices float down to her, talking about the hillbilly hog they brought in earlier tonight. The second voice implores that they should be fed, not Bubba. But the first hushes this, wondering if they should go to the movies tonight since there's no crowds because of the football games. Tonight's a washout. It's the biggest meat eater weekend of the month and they're going to lose money on it. Maybe they should just quit. The other voice... It's Chop Top. Invites the cook to kiss his plate, reminding him that this chrome dome bankrolled this business. Without his injury, there'd be no fancy rolling grill-a-go-go. So this is interesting.
Yeah.
The door slides open and Leatherface is silhouetted there. He picks up an electric carving knife and Stretch hides, making herself unseen. Chop Top comes over as Leatherface kneels over LG's body, instructing him in his wild and excited voice to peel that pig and slice him thick. That's my sweet pea. But the owner of the first voice comes over, and it is the cook. I don't know why I was being so mysterious.
Yeah, nobody sounds like them.
No.
He demands that Leatherface gets them hogs on the grill. Big pre-game brunch tomorrow means a ton of croissant sandwiches. He laughs that he loves this town. The cook scurries away after Chop Top, telling him to get the grill going. Left alone now, Leatherface gets to work with his electric knife, and we listen to him cut as we press in on Stretch's fearful face. Leatherface has only cut away LG's jeans and shirt and he tosses them to the side. But now he brings the knife back down on LG's leg, cutting a strip of skin away. He picks it up to inspect it, slick with blood, before ultimately tossing it to the side and focusing on another area, higher up and out of our view. We listen as the electric knife gets to work, and when Leatherface unfurls this piece of skin, he seems more pleased with it and hangs it on a hook above him before lowering himself back down to LG's body. He raises the knife up and brings it down hard as Stretch cries silently. This time, Leatherface stands up with the skin of LG's entire face in his hand. He holds it up against the light coming in through the door, but before he puts it on the hook, he holds it to his own face, looking through the eye holes. Stretch watches this and is so sucked in that she accidentally kicks a cluster of metal hooks, causing them to fall and clatter loudly.
As soon as I seen those hooks, I said, those are getting kicked over.
It was only a matter of time.
was.
She gasps and scoots back, but the damage is done. The sound scares the shit out of Leatherface, who jumps and yelps. He turns toward her with his blood-smeared apron and grabs up a meat cleaver on his way to investigate. He immediately finds Stretch, who screams when she sees him. Leatherface looks her over, recognizes her, and growls angrily from behind his mask. He stands tall, raising the cleaver high above his head, but Stretch goes back to her tried and true method. She warns him, "No good, no good." Leatherface cocks his head to the side, seemingly understanding. He tosses the cleaver to the side and wipes his bloody hands on his bloodier apron, still clutching LG's face. Stretch grimaces as he lowers himself to her and strokes her hair, but the interaction is mercifully interrupted when Chop Top comes in, snapping at Leatherface to come on, Bubba. The cook's out here chewing ass like it was steak. He throws two huge bags down on the ground, and Leatherface nods his agreement, holding up LG's face with Stretch still out of view. But Chop Top mimics the cook, telling Leatherface to run for that money now, go fast for that dollar and catch up. But he's interrupted when the cook rushes in, grabbing Chop Top and calling them both dumb baboons, too dumb to even close the door. He turns Chop Top and pushes him through that door, kicking him in the ass on the way out while he laments that he's tired of doing that. Leatherface looks nervously between the cook and Stretch, and when the cook notices, he asks if he's trying to hide something. Leatherface just looks up at him from behind his mask, presenting LG's face in one hand and the cleaver in the other. Satisfied by this, the cook just tells him to get that eyeball pate working. He hurries from the room, barking more orders at Chop Top. That's gross. It goes without saying, but ew.
Yeah.
With him gone, Leatherface turns back to Stretch, who looks up at him, trembling, pleading in a whisper, "Help me, please." Leatherface nods, understanding, and when Stretch asks again if he can help her, he raises up the skinned remains of LG's face. He holds it over hers, and she begs him to put it down. She asks what it is, but Leatherface just continues to nod as he comes closer. She asks again what it is, realizing that it's wet. But of course, Leatherface doesn't answer. He presses this disembodied face over Stretch's as she shudders.
This is a human face that you saw him retrieve.
Yes, yeah.
And she's like, it's wet? It's like, dude, this is your concern?
It's like, this is a sensory nightmare.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Stretch raises her hands to pull it away, but Leatherface grunts his frustration as he pulls them back down, away from the mask. He holds his hands out to her as a sign to wait and trust. He hurries away and grabs LG's cowboy hat. When he returns with it, he places it on Stretch's head and adjusts the gruesome mask over her face again. She trembles and sobs, and in an attempt to cheer her up, Leatherface grips each of her wrists and shakes her arms up and down in a playful dance. She continues to cry, but he pulls her to her feet and dances with her. An uneasy score swells as he spins her again and again, dancing next to the hanging body parts. But unbeknownst to all of them, Lefty is still sawing his way through the tunnels, taking out support beams as he goes. And I gotta say, Stretch in this face and this hat was really giving Devil's Rejects.
Absolutely. The second it went on her face, I'm thinking of her on the back of the door.
Exactly.
Okay.
This arc for Leatherface just simply is not working for me.
Yeah.
And I want it to, because it almost, whenever they were in the radio station, it was kind of putting me in the mind of Frankenstein's monster with this good and bad.
Yeah.
And so I was like, maybe we can explore that and kind of give a little empathy towards Leatherface like we all found in the first
Yes.
film.
Right.
And so I was like, maybe this might work out or whatever. But the more it progresses and then what happens in just a little while, it's like, this is just not what it could be.
Right.
I think that this works better for me. I think of him dancing at the end
Yes.
of the first one. I think that if that's like in a very childish way, he's like, look, everything's fine. Like we're okay. It's okay. I love wearing these things, so I'm going to put it on you. And look at this really cool hat that my brother loved. I'm going to put that on you too. And then we're going to dance and everything's fine. Like that works better for me than him trying to fuck with his chainsaw or whatever the fuck he was doing at the radio station. That's what ruins it for me.
Yeah.
Like if it were just this and he's like, it's like, oh, like, because I don't think, we already talked about it in the first one. I think that he is a product of his family and his fear. I don't think that he is inherently like, kill. Like, what was it? Destroy.
Yeah.
American Horror Story.
Yeah. I don't think that he's that. I don't.
No.
So this worked better for me, but it's already tainted by what he did earlier.
Yeah.
He's not a taint.
Taint.
Speaking of.
Yeah. I kind of felt the same way. I don't think it was working for me as well. And I do get what you're saying, and I didn't mind this as much. I think the problem for me is just that this isn't the Leatherface we're getting. I like the movie's just kind of like here and there, and it's all over the place, and then he's doing this and he's humping his fucking thing earlier, and then it's just, it is, for me, I feel the same. It's just not working. I don't know what it is. But I'm not enjoying this timeline of Leatherface.
Something I was thinking, though, is how would it have been, and would we have enjoyed it more if it were simply Gunnar Hansen? Because I feel like every motion and every movement meant something.
There's such a nuance.
Right.
Yeah. And so maybe it would feel a little bit better, each and everything. Still
Not
cut
the humping?
Yeah, I was going to say
Maybe
still
not the
cut the
humping.
humping.
Yeah.
Still cut that out. But I think that maybe this scene could have felt a little more sympathetic for him.
Yeah.
You know? There's just something special about that performance
For sure.
that I'm just not getting here.
No.
But the dance is only interrupted when this haphazard construction causes debris, dust, and dirt to fall from the ceiling and onto Stretch and Leatherface, what Lefty's doing. Panicked, Leatherface shoves Stretch back down into her hiding spot, but he quickly comes back and raises her to her feet again. He turns her around and ties her arms behind her back, breathing heavily as he rushes to do so. He directs her down again and leaves her, cowering and afraid, wearing the hat and face of her departed friend. He takes lumbering steps toward the door and leaves, closing it behind him and leaving Stretch alone. She's audibly crying when she gets back to her feet. She tries to follow the way he went, but when she's pulled back, she realizes that the rope he tied her arms together with is anchored to the ground with chains. She tries to pull herself free, but it's futile. Suddenly, on the ground, LG starts to cry and groan.
Now this I couldn't believe.
Yeah.
He raises a skinless hand toward her before sitting up. At the sight of him, Stretch yelps and runs away, retching, which is quite rude. Gregory Peck style. Leaving LG to turn his skinned and bloody face toward us. Still, he finds it within himself to hawk and spit.
Put him out of his misery.
Yeah.
That's enough out of you. Stretch stands with her back to him, but LG is able to croak. My darling. She trembles, despite him telling her not to be scared. He stands up, revealing half of his chest to be devoid of skin, bleeding and exposed. He screams. His ribs are in plain view when he grabs a suspended hook to steady himself. Stretch calls his name and backs away, suddenly realizing that they got him too. LG hawks and spits again before realizing that they need to get Stretch loose. He moves forward on uneven steps toward a large knife stuck into a cutting board. He grabs the knife and Stretch turns for him to cut her restraints loose, but LG's motor skills are struggling. He raises the knife high before bringing it down through the air again and again, a little too close to Stretch's back for comfort. Finally, he grabs the rope with his other hand and saws through it with the blade. He lets the knife fall from his hand and the two look at each other for a horrible moment. He admits, his voice muffled and tired, I guess I'm falling apart on you, honey. I like that line. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
With that, he loses his footing and falls to the ground. Stretch raises her hand to take off his hat, but he lifts his skinless one, imploring her, no. But after a moment, he utters the word shit, and his focus softens before completely fading away. Stretch finally removes the hat and the awful mask, contorting her bloody face as she sobs over her friend. She finally returns his skin to his face, smoothing it down the best that she can. And with that done, she places the cowboy hat lovingly over his chest and sobs his name quietly, admitting to him, LG, I loved you.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, when?
Maybe like friend. She's like, as a friend. She whispered as a friend.
It's a little fucked up, I feel.
Yeah, now that I'm dead.
Let him have this. His dying moment. The last thing he hears is a qualifier.
Like a brother.
Yeah, like not romantically, but...
And why the lie? It sounded like they got you too? What do you mean?
I know. That confused me too.
You know they took him.
Yeah.
He was in the lobby. When you want to follow them outside, he's gone. They took him.
Yeah.
You know they did.
A pool of blood.
Yeah. No, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
In one of those interviews,
All right.
Lou Perryman said that Tobe Hooper called him up and said, we want to skin you alive. You want to do it? He said, absolutely. He said that they did have a conversation about the likelihood of the Sawyers letting him keep his Longhorn boxers on. And he was like, I can do it naked if you want. And that Tobe Hooper was like, Nah.
It's all right.
So they cast Lou Perryman's entire body, and Gino Crognale, who would go on to do a lot of work with KMB, sculpted the prosthetics according to medical anatomy textbooks.
Okay.
Lou Perryman said that they needed him on set by 8 or 10, so he showed up between midnight and 2 a.m. That's how long it took. He said that they had a slant board set up for him to lay on during application, and he just slept through the whole thing. He goes, I woke up looking like a freak. They made a quick face, though, for what Leatherface puts on Stretch and what she lays on his face. They made it very quickly, and they didn't go based off of Lou Perryman's face. But they said when she laid it down on him, it accidentally fit perfectly.
Because it does.
It does.
Yeah.
But Stretch is snapped back to reality when a loud crash goes off from further in the labyrinth. And despite the cook and Chop Top's voice echoing through the area, she goes through the doors. She steps out, listening to both the cook and Chop Top throw insults at Bubba. The cook's rant on lawyers is cut short when he realizes that Chop Top has cut a main support beam. The cook runs around, frantic and furious, kicking Leatherface in the ass and demanding that he look at what his brother did. All the while, Chop Top is hopping around and cackling wildly, the dead body that he was wearing when he killed Rick and Buzz strapped to him once again. So now that we're seeing this body, we get a better view of this body. They referred to him as Nubbins. Mm-hmm. This is Nubbins Sawyer, a.k.a. the hitchhiker from part 1.
It is an interesting detail.
Yeah.
It is. And he's wearing the exact same clothes.
Yes. So... did he die that night?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember now.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Well, it's been many years.
Yeah, it's true.
Wait, he gets hit by that truck.
That's right.
I was like, I cannot fucking remember. Yeah. So yeah, he does die.
In my head, I'm like, well, over the course of 14 years, maybe he went peacefully in his sleep. Because he does not deserve.
No.
Peace?
No. So that's good.
It's good that he didn't get that.
Mm-hmm. And that also because 14 years difference, and that's not the difference in the real time of the film.
Yeah.
Right.
But I was like kind of wondering. I was like, why isn't the hitchhiker here? Because I was trying to remember, and so it does make perfect sense. So he's not here. We have Bill Moseley as like kind of
his counterpart.
Yeah. So I get it.
Yeah.
I got it.
Leatherface watches, and Chop Top continues his chaos as the cook raves that dirty meat won't cut it. Family standards only require the best meat in town. He laments more money lost. He never gets a break. It's just work night and day, presenting himself to the people, selling. And all they do is hang around and listen to the radio all day while they saw down their own house. I will say, though, none of those words matched anything that his mouth was saying.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point that out. And it's Lefty sawing through their house when we cut back to him, hacking through pieces of wood with his chainsaw and screaming, "Take it all down. Bring it all down. Bury the devil." As he takes down another beam, he prays for the Lord to have mercy on all their souls. But this rattling sends dust tumbling out of a huge open and suspended pipe. The cook hurries over, reasoning that it might have cracked the main butane tank. He kicks Leatherface again, demanding that he go look at it. He whines, "Taxes, taxes, taxes." Crooks don't pay him. Politicians don't. Movie stars don't. It's the little guy that can't get a dime that pays it. The small businessman gets it in the ass every time.
So I'll give him that. And I also want to say that his idea for croissant barbecue sandwiches is also really good. So that's 2.
A stopped clock is right.
Yes, the worst person you know has made a great point.
While he goes on his tax tirade, Stretch scampers away up onto a higher level where she can look down on them, specifically on Leatherface. Chop Top tells the cook that he's right. It's time to dump this place and sell. It's in the air. He smiles that it's what the public wants. The cook clamps both hands over his ears, asserting that he doesn't want to hear this again. But Chop Top is jumping up and down excitedly. It's Nomland. Lefty brings his chainsaw down again, somehow causing sparks to shoot off in front of Stretch. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's not in there, but
Get past it.
she screams. And Leatherface looks up at her, literally shaking his head and putting out his hand like, no, dude, I fucking laughed so hard because Leatherface is stressed.
Yeah. Wow.
This is the thanks I get.
Yeah.
Not supposed to be here.
Chop Top asks what the hell that was and sprints off. Stretch is coming down from her perch too and nearly runs directly into him, but Chop Top is so distracted that he goes right past her. Giggling, he shoots off a burst of a fire extinguisher into the air, proclaiming again, Nomland, napalm, fire in the hole. He goes back in the other direction where the cook is trying to force Leatherface into the pipe to go check out the butane tank. But the pipe is precisely where Stretch is hiding now, and she panics. Chop Top it's getting unbearable.
Yeah. No, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I would rather hear a chainsaw right now. That's number one. But
Yeah.
there were,
And I'm sick of hearing chainsaws.
Yeah, no.
there came a point in time like that it just became so grating that I literally, in my head, I was like, will you shut the fuck up? Like, just for a minute, dude.
It does seem that this movie wants to compete with American Werewolf in Paris.
Oh, no.
At this point, I'm like, wow, you're really like, hold my beer. It was getting to me. I'll be honest. For me,
I feel
Right.
like
for me.
what Chop Top is doing here is giving me more sympathy for the cook because I'd be a fucking asshole.
Oh
yeah.
no, yeah.
It's like, I'm real sad that hitchhiker died.
The cook keeps yelling at Leatherface to go check it out, but Chop Top interrupts, talking over him with another pitch for Nomland. It's a hit, it's a bang, it's a smash. But the cook pushes him into his brother, and Stretch takes this opportunity to sprint across the room and into another pipe in the wall. Everyone sees her.
Yeah.
Terrible escape, by the way.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Really bad.
Yeah.
The cook blinks at where she ran into in disbelief. He turns back to Leatherface, asking if he saw that. Leatherface immediately nods, but then pivots to shaking his head. And when the cook repeats the question, more agitated, he nods again. Shakes, nods, shakes, nods. The cook just slaps him in the chest, repeating for him to go check it out. But Chop Top comes over screaming, Nomland! The cook begs him to shut up, and well, I agree. He tells Leatherface again to check it out because some booger just came through here. Chop Top asks, a booger? How big? He makes Nubbin speak in a high-pitched voice. A big, crazy booger. But luckily, the corpse agrees with the cook, and when he encourages Chop Top, let's haul butt, bro, he dashes away.
This may be unpopular, but I feel like we're spending a little too much time with the Sawyers.
No, we are.
Because I think like if we were to give some of this extra time that we're spending with a lot of one-liners or whatever is going on with our final girl,
Yeah.
with Lieutenant Enright, who I don't know fucking shit about
Nothing.
really.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
I think that the film would be served a little bit better in my view,
Right.
to me.
It is. I think I do agree, and I think it is kind of that like, how is Michael Myers running when the camera's away?
Right.
And it's like we're watching that he gets on a moped and takes off.
Yeah.
So it is that if we see them, just a little bit, we don't need to stay with them all the time. We don't need to hear them arguing about the brand of toilet paper to buy. Like, I don't understand why we're here.
I
No.
will say I'm not afraid of them.
No, and that's the thing.
Not whatsoever.
If we saw them sparingly, I even think that the lines wouldn't be so grating.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, it's just all the time with this dude.
Yeah.
I would fucking start killing and eating people too. Like,
No shit.
starting with you.
Anything for an escape.
Yes.
Can you guys guess what Lefty's doing?
I'm going to say he's got that saw in hand.
Yeah.
He's still wandering through the tunnels and cutting down wooden support beams, but the roaring chainsaw finally goes quiet when his eyes fall upon something. He whispers, "Oh my God," and we see it. A skeleton in a wheelchair, covered in cobwebs and still clutching a flashlight in its bony grip. Lefty approaches the skeleton and kneels next to its chair, hit with the devastating realization. Franklin.
Franklin?
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. Yes, Franklin.
And this was a shocking moment.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why they kept him.
It's that was my question.
Right.
You brought him here.
Yes.
Why?
I do not know. I did appreciate that there was bringing back some of this continuity.
Yeah.
And honestly, after dealing with Chop Top for so long, I think a little break is fantastic. But everybody owes Franklin an apology from the first film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, I'm like, and honestly, I'd be pretty pissed off too if I were him. I got fucking thrown down a hill, and then, they bring me here, and they're like, get away from us. So yeah, he has every right to be fucking pissed off and blowing raspberries at the ceiling.
No.
He was annoying. He was annoying.
He was annoying, but he was hurt. Hurt people.
But he was acting up in the van.
He was, but he was also very interested in the
in the head cheese.
So you got to give him, whatever. But this is a very interesting thing to see.
Right.
And it's his, I guess, Lieutenant Enright's entire mission.
Yeah.
And so we're being reminded of why he's even here in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Lefty reaches out to touch his hand, but this causes the arm to shift and the flashlight to glow brightly before dying again. Lefty stares at the fading light as his face goes dark.
And he had the flashlight when he was killed.
Yeah.
Which is another pretty cool detail.
Yeah. He stares at the slack-jawed skull, and determination comes back to him. He implores, "Don't you cry, my brother. I'm here now." And he repeats with his gritted teeth, enraged that they can't do this. He snatches the chainsaw back up and starts it, swinging it into another support beam. As dirt and debris rain down on him, he raises the chainsaw above his head, vowing, "I'll take you to hell."
If Enright's brother, if it had been established that he was dead,
that
would explain a lot why he's not here.
Yes.
For any part of this, and what he just said just then.
I bet that is more that got cut. I bet.
Because at this point, it's like, in my mind,
right.
I thought you were their uncle.
I thought
you were
the
the
same thing because the way he says it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so Franklin, I don't know who you are to him.
Yeah.
Family member.
Nondescript family member.
Yeah, somebody.
Stretch scrambles out of the tunnel and she looks around, stumbling and lost in the maze of tunnels lined with glowing Christmas lights. Holding her arm, she hobbles forward, but when she hears the roaring and sees the spark and smoke of a chainsaw around the corner ahead, she stops. We see that it's Lefty, but all Stretch sees is the support beam collapse and the ceiling begin to fall, barricading the way. How has Lefty not been crushed?
I know.
Don't know.
This entire time. He's standing in those tunnels that are falling down.
Yeah.
She screams and runs in the opposite direction, and we follow close behind as she passes glowing bulbs and lamps lining the walls and ceiling. There are posed skeletons suspended on the wall, lounging in beds and in chairs, but still, Stretch runs. But she's forced to stop when Leatherface comes lurching out of an unseen tunnel toward her, the chainsaw held high above his head, roaring and filling the area with its smoke. Stretch screams, but Leatherface is really just standing and shimmying, holding up the weapon. She runs away and he pauses, grunting and growling before chasing her.
You're doing the dice move too much.
He
man.
was.
You got
He what the holding it up and the
that's a
shaking.
lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very quickly, I did want to talk about this whole area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had said that the outside was this abandoned amusement park, but the inside going underground is actually the second floor of that newspaper office.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And so they literally transformed this place.
Yeah.
And the difficult thing is that they only had 5 to 6 weeks to do it. And so that was, I think, before all of the delays in pre-production and all that stuff.
Right.
And so the time is shrinking. And so they get together, and I think it's in their production offices, which I think were also in that building. And they built a model of the area so that they could try and figure out how to connect it and to build these sets to bring them together.
Right.
Because the massive set that we see at the very end is also a part of this area and connected.
That's very impressive.
Yeah.
They had said something like half a mile of tubes that they use to create these like pipes and like systems and everything.
Damn.
And I think that it was this area that was like a quarter mile of running, basically, that you have for her to be doing this, getting chased.
Yeah.
And in this area with what they had already built, they were like, how the fuck are we going to light this? And so the cinematographer, a guy called Richard Corris, he was like, well, what if the Sawyers are just like pack rats?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they just accumulate shit and just bring it down here.
And I think that tracks.
Yeah. And so they basically went to all these different shops and thrift stores and got all the lamps that they possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
And they just started building these little like tableaus of previous murder victims, different skeletal remains of all these people that they've killed over the years.
Right.
And you see as she's passing, it's like all these different like
Yeah.
stories.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought even just the visual of it with the Christmas lights and all that stuff, I think they had said, and the place that we'll get to after this with the finale, the area was 175 feet by 120 feet and 90 feet high.
Holy shit.
Damn.
And so they had a lot of space to work with. And what we see that they've done with it is one of the most remarkable aspects of the film to me.
I
Oh,
agree.
yeah.
And all the furniture that's covered in bones and everything that we see later and see now, real bones.
Wow. Again.
Yeah.
Stretch is running toward the next area where Lefty stands with his own chainsaw, sawing at the wood, eventually forcing the ceiling to come down and bury it, blocking Stretch's only escape. Cornered by Leatherface now, Stretch begs him, all right, let's talk about it. He finally turns the chainsaw off to listen, and Stretch implores him, you think you're pissed off? What about me? She sobs that this isn't going to work out. Leatherface pokes her in the stomach with the tip of the chainsaw blade, but Stretch tells him that she's just trying to be open with him. It's nobody's fault, but she just can't do this. She dissolves into tears, pleading with him to just let her go. But Leatherface shakes his head and thrusts the chainsaw toward her again. So again, I get the comedy here of her like breaking up with him, like it's a regular relationship, but it's Leatherface and she's a victim. Like I get why it's funny.
Right. I'm just not laughing.
Yeah, I was going to say.
This is when the cook comes running toward them, demanding to know what the hell is going on with the crazed Chop Top in tow. Leatherface tries to stand his ground, but lets himself be yanked out of the way, revealing Stretch, cowering back against the fallen wall of debris. She sinks to her knees. The cook laughs with understanding. He gets it now. Is she the saboteur that's been fucking up their house and trying to put him out of business? He tells her that thousands of dollars are lost. Does she have that kind of money? Stretch just shakes her head, her eyes wide. Chop Top informs the cook, though. It's the DJ, his fave. But the cook asks, that dirty thing? He says that they told him they got her. Leatherface's eyes dart side to side guiltily as Chop Top affirms this. Leatherface already killed her once tonight, but look, she's red-faced. He says that Bubba's been playing with her. Bubba likes her. Bubba's got a girlfriend. He intones this again, sing-song, teasing, bouncing up and down and shaking nubbins. Bubba's got a girlfriend. Bubba's got a girlfriend. Leatherface just stares at Stretch helplessly as Chop Top's song teeters off into giggles. The cook asks Leatherface if that's what this is. The old cock and cunt swindle? SCEX? Sex? Sir.
Thought they closed that place down. What is...
I don't know, dude.
Right.
I don't know. Leatherface shrugs. The cook laments that he just had to go and find out about it. If Leatherface wanted to know about it so bad, he could have just asked him. He says that it's all just a swindle, so he shouldn't get mixed up in it. Stretch takes a moment to beg for Leatherface to help her, and he nervously licks his lips from behind his mask. Chop Top mocks her, but Leatherface reaches out to caress her face. The cook snatches him back and turns his attention to Stretch, warning her to leave him alone, damn it. The cook grabs Leatherface's arm and reminds him, Bubba, you were supposed to finish her. He tells him to finish her now. Chop Top bounces around, singing for him to burn her like a rat, as he flicks his lighter. Stretch shakes her head, but the cook repeats for him to finish her now. Leatherface nods, shakes his head, nods, shakes his head. Fed up, the cook snatches the chainsaw away from Leatherface, disgusted that Bubba has turned traitor for a piece of tail. He puts it simply, you got one choice, sex or the saw. As Leatherface fiddles anxiously with the tie around his neck, the cook admits that sex, well, nobody knows. That is funny.
That's really funny.
Fuck.
He's like, I don't know nothing about that.
Let's get past that. One thing I do know.
But the saw is family. He cautions, wait till Granddad hears about this. Ashamed, Leatherface bangs his head repeatedly against a light fixture. The cook orders Chop Top to take Stretch away. As he takes his leave, Chop Top picks up a giant bone from the floor and he counts. A 1 and a 2 and a 3. Chop Top brings the bone down on us, and we cut to Stretch, unconscious and slumped forward.
Just a couple bits of praise that I want to give to the screenwriter.
Okay.
Firstly, the saw is family.
Excellent. Yeah.
Fantastic line. Secondly, I'm realizing why Chop Top is always counting in on his beatings if music is his life.
Oh, a 1
okay.
and a 2.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good.
I'm still not having a good time.
He said it's not enough.
Yeah, I thought you weren't.
No, yeah.
You know.
Thought that might be the case.
Yeah.
When Stretch wakes and looks around at her chair made of bones, at the long dinner table in front of her, at her bound hands, she begins to scream. But the cook is pacing and ringing the dinner bell, encouraging the boys to hurry up, eat and run, eat and run. He reminds them that there's a lot of hungry football fans to feed. They need to hurry up because Grandpa likes to go fast. He always did. He cackles that time means money. He reaches the end of the table where Stretch is trapped and confides in her that he always stoops his shoulders taking care of his younger brothers. It squashed the young years from his life like a can of Cheese Whip. His bell rings in his shaking hands as he admits that he wouldn't wish this rotten life off a one-eyed ferret with mange. He switches gears and tells her that she's the first girl that Bubba ever brought home to dinner, so it's a special occasion, and Grandpa sure is looking forward to meeting her. He's 137 years old, but he's still as fast as Jesse James, so she shouldn't worry none. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Might be
I don't know
overselling.
Yeah.
We've seen the first film.
Yeah.
And that was 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Can't imagine he's gotten much stronger.
Yeah.
He announces that here comes Grandpa now before singing that it's playtime. It's dinner time. Your little boys have some left here for you. Yes, no, yes, we do. Leatherface and Chop Top hurry down the walkway, pushing their grandfather forward in his chair, and Chop Top joins in the song. We love you, we love you. Stretch starts to scream hysterically across the room as they carefully disconnect Grandpa's chair from its wheels. His head is thrown back and he jostles when he's set back down. Grandpa, played by Ken Everett, is dressed smartly in his black suit, but his bloated, slack, and weathered face is blank. Tom Savini said that Tobe Hooper let his team cast Grandpa. He brought Tom Savini a bunch of photos to pick from, and Savini said that they picked Everett because he was skinny and he had these really deep set eyes. The makeup took 9.5 hours.
Ooh.
They used breakdown appliances and put them on piece by piece on his face. John Volchek did the sculpts. He worked on a lot, just to name a few that we've covered. Day of the Dead, The Lost Boys, Tom Savini's Night of the Living Dead. Again, just to name a few. But he sculpted all these pieces and they put them on piece by piece on his face.
Damn.
9.5 hours.
It looks remarkable.
It does.
It looks great.
It really does.
Did you catch the Doctor Strangelove reference in the thing?
I didn't.
There's like a skeleton like writing what appears to be an atomic bomb
That's
on the thing. Hanging.
I was hoping that was the reference you were referring to. That's the only reference I know because of this episode.
Right.
When Stretch screeches again, the cook turns to her, patting Grandpa's head as he shares that the old man's strict liquid diet has kept him fresh as a rose. Every spring, the Atlas Rendering Company would throw a big barbecue for Grandpa. The cook and Chop Top go over to her chair, flanking each side as the cook boasts that their grandpa was the master, the one and only. He showed them the business. He grins that they was raised in meat. As the cook shares with her and Chop Top terrorizes her by hopping around and poking her, Leatherface has fallen to his knees next to Grandpa, pressing his hands together in prayer. But the cook isn't done with this story because, you see, after the glory, here comes the shame. Atlas went for automation with electrified stations, cold steel chutes, and air-powered head hammers. As Chop Top grins, he lights his hanger on fire again and scratches at the irritated skin around his plate. The cook tells Stretch that seeing things done this way drove Grandpa crazy. Stretch screams, begging for them to let her go, but the cook pats her gently, promising her that it's all right, it'll all be over soon. Chop Top has been taunting Stretch with the tip of his hanger. He grabs up a worm or maybe a maggot from the tabletop and rubs it against the side of her face until the cook bids him to go get the hammer. He leaves. Alone with Stretch now, the cook flexes his fists, asserting the crunching and the grinding. He just couldn't stand it anymore, so that was all she wrote. He walks down the length of the long table to where Leatherface tends to Grandpa in his chair, and he continues that one morning, Grandpa just stopped going in. It was the shame. The shame. Chop Top comes back over with the hammer in a tub, and when he brandishes the hammer at Stretch when he walks by, she cries out. The cook suddenly announces that there's more work to do, and he implores his brothers to get on with it. Chop Top agrees with this, but the cook snaps at him to go get the tub. Does he have to do everything around here? He takes the hammer from Chop Top when he goes to fetch the tub, and he points at Stretch with it, advising her with a chuckle to just sit tight. He announces to Leatherface that she's ready and to bring her on down. Leatherface is now presiding over the cook's latest chili cook-off trophy, and when he looks over at Stretch and she screeches, he shrugs and waves his hands in a gentle refusal. The cook is incensed, slamming the hammer down on the table and demanding Leatherface to bring her on down, damn it! Stretch begs him not to, and although Leatherface initially refuses, his silent protestation dies away, and he goes over to Stretch. She writhes in her restraints, screaming her own refusals while Leatherface strokes her hair. She begs for help, begs to be let go, but the cook comes over with his own comforts. This is going to be one she doesn't forget. It's a real honor. He boasts that Grandpa is a one-hitter. It's just like going home. Chop Top grins maniacally and wags his tongue as he kneels next to his grandpa. The cook starts to walk away, but pauses to look back at Leatherface, running his hands along Stretch's arms and hair, ignoring her hysterical begging. Running out of patience, he snaps at his brother. "Let's go see Grandpa, boy!" But Leatherface takes this opportunity to lower his masked face to Stretch's and press his lips against hers. I was shocked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The cook tenses fingers together, oscillating between excitement and fury. He bounces on his heels, instructing Leatherface again to bring the bitch down. Stretch begs and pleads as Leatherface finally does as he's told. Chop Top is scratching his hanger against Nubbin's head, who's set up at the table. But when Leatherface starts to bring Stretch over, he snaps his attention to them, announcing, "Here comes the judge." He goes to help Leatherface lower Stretch to her knees over the bucket. The cook warns his brothers to watch the splatter and not to ruin Grandpa's favorite rug. He raises his hands desperately to the sky, crying out to old great-grandma in chainsaw heaven, begging her not to hoodoo the boy.
I feel like you're just making up stuff as you're going along now.
Yeah.
Now there's a chainsaw heaven?
Yeah,
No.
never have I heard of fucking chainsaw.
No.
There's a religion. And
Yeah. Come on.
As Leatherface wrestles with Stretch, trying to hold her over the tub, Chop Top slides the hammer's handle into Grandpa's withered hand. The cook kneels next to the old man, grinning at him to look at what Bubba brought him. Grandpa turns to Stretch with an awful smile, gripping the hammer in one hand and a ladle in the other. The cook and Chop Top chitter excitedly, stepping out of the way and inviting Grandpa to do it. Hit her, encouraging him that he's the best. But the hammer falls from Grandpa's hand, thudding to the rug as he absently drags his tongue across the metal ladle. The cook picks it up quickly and puts it back in Grandpa's hand, reminding him that he's a one-hitter. He's never missed. Well, that was a fucking lie.
Yeah.
That's simply not true. Stretch's screams echo in the metal tub, held down by Chop Top and Leatherface. Grandpa raises the hammer, brings it down, and misses. He brings it down again, clattering it against the rim of the tub. He raises it again and drops it. Caroline Williams said, too, that in this scene, it felt so funny and lighthearted when they were shooting it that the entire time that they're holding her down in the bucket, she's laughing her ass off.
That's good for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is wild.
Yes, it is.
And it sounds better than what Marilyn Burns and the cast said about
Yes.
Yeah.
that house.
Mm-hmm.
We press in on Grandpa's smiling face, his mottled skin, rotting teeth. He bulges his pale eyes wide as his grandsons cheer him on, singing his praises, encouraging him. He drops the hammer again. Tom Savini said as well, he and his team begged Tobe Hooper to get this close-up shot on Grandpa's face because they had worked so hard on it. They loved his deep set eyes. They had contacts on for the pale eyes. And Tobe Hooper was like, fine. He only did it to shut them up. Like they were annoying the hell out of him. But I think it looks good.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think it works. We see him coming alive a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
When Chop Top raises the bloody tip of the hanger up to Grandpa's face, he laps at it greedily with his tongue, and Chop Top agrees. It's good, isn't it, Grandpa? Grandpa spits up and drops the hammer into the tub where it clangs loudly, echoing with Stretch's incessant screaming. The struggle continues, and when Grandpa drops the hammer the next time, it hits Stretch in the back of the head. Seemingly renewed, Grandpa's eyes loll, and he's able to reach down and pick up the hammer himself. The boys continue to cheer, imploring him to do it, to hit that bitch. Grandpa raises the hammer and brings it down hard on the back of Stretch's head. The cook and Chop Top rejoice, and while Leatherface doesn't cheer, he does continue to hold Stretch over the tub. When the hammer falls inside of it, the cook decides that it's time to get on with it. He picks it up himself and throws it back down, hitting Stretch in the back of the head. She goes slack, slumping forward into the tub, and Chop Top lowers the ladle, announcing that it's Slurpee booty time. The cook hops around excited, but Leatherface steps away, turning his back. They continue this way until the roaring of a chainsaw cuts through their celebration and smoke begins to billow down. Debris clatters onto him and everyone is stricken silent. Lefty's voice floats over to them, singing, ringing in the sheaves, and Chop Top joins him, bouncing up and down as his grating voice mingles with Lefty's echo. But the cook yells at him to shut up. He wants to know what's going on here. We have been struggling with Grandpa for about 45 damn minutes.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see Lefty. I don't want to say I forgot about him, but I kind of did forget about him.
Yeah. Where have you been?
Yeah, no shit.
Because if I'm not mistaken, Stretch has been knocked out and she's returned to consciousness in this whole time.
He's AWOL. Lefty's cowboy-hatted silhouette finally becomes visible in the open pipe, and he's still singing as he looks down at them. Still, Leatherface and the cook look up, scanning the glowing openings of the multiple pipes, unable to find where the voice is coming from. Lefty takes this opportunity to step out onto the landing and jump down. He holds his chainsaw up, muttering, "Boys, boys, boys." The cook, again, asks what the hell is going on here. He asks Lefty if that's the American way to enter a man's home, singing like that. That's your issue?
Yeah.
Again.
Chop Top cowers behind him as he realizes it's the old pressure game, isn't it? But Lefty just points the chainsaw forward, warning the boys that they never should have been doing this. The cook wants to know who sent him. The sissies at Del Mar Catering, that chicken shit burrito man brunch. That is funny.
Yes, this was cracking me up. Because
Yes.
You think it's your competition?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
As Lefty steps toward him, the cook decides that he doesn't care. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and from where he sits, there just ain't enough damn dogs. He warns that if they can't beat the heat, get out of the kitchen. He's full of one-liners. He takes out a wad of cash and starts to peel off bills, inviting Lefty to make a deal with him. It's real cash money. He says that he doesn't care who sent him, but Lefty announces that he's the Lord of the Harvest. The cook doesn't know what that is and guesses it to be some kind of new health food bunch. That is to me the funniest line in the film.
Yeah.
Lord of the Harvest. That's really fucking funny.
Dude, do you not think that after all the people you've killed,
that no one would... It's like it's another fucking food truck. He implores him to come on and make a deal. How much? 50? No, I'm just kidding. Stretch fights her way back to consciousness and lifts her head. She calls Lefty's name and he spots her, replying, "Sister." Huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Stretch sobs his name again, and this is what makes Lefty pull the cord on the chainsaw. It smokes as it roars to life. The cook and Chop Top turn their backs and hurry away, which was funny as well.
Yes.
But Lefty catches the cook right in the ass with the chainsaw, and the cook screams as he scrambles away, bleeding, and he hides under the table. As Chop Top passes his grandfather, he slides the hammer into his withered hand again. Lefty pauses to saw the rope restraining Stretch's wrists, and he implores her to run, so she does. But Leatherface has taken his own chainsaw off the wall, and he and Lefty go toe-to-toe, ramming the blades against each other. Leatherface quickly gains the upper hand, but when Lefty kicks at him, he falls back. He raises the chainsaw and screams and charges Lefty, but he misses. He quickly recovers, and he and Lefty go at each other again. Meanwhile, Stretch is making her way through one of the tunnels, but just as she rounds a corner, Chop Top reaches out from above and grabs her by the hair. He jumps down with her, cackling as he wrestles her, but Stretch is able to kick and punch her way out of his grip. Chop Top isn't deterred for long, though, and when she runs, he goes sprinting after her. But Lefty is holding up his chainsaw, defending himself against Leatherface. When Leatherface clashes his blade against Lefty's, Lefty spins back and hops up on the dinner table. He jumps over Leatherface's weapon when it's swung at him, but he's ultimately knocked flat on his back among the bones and filth on the table.
I don't know why I was surprised that there was a fucking chainsaw fight in this movie.
Yeah.
But I should have known better.
This is where it was all leading to.
Yeah, I should have known better.
He gets back to his feet as Leatherface joins him on the tabletop and the fighting continues. Grandpa groans as he looks around in his chair, and we see now that Nubbins has a crazy straw in his slack mouth, connecting to a glass bottle of Big Red, but it's knocked over in the fight. I was like, oh, Grandpa loves Big Red.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Tastes like bubblegum to me.
Not a fan, personally.
Yeah, no, I'm from Texas.
I've been here a long time, but we were not born here. So. Maybe it's a birthright. But the cook is still in his hiding spot, and as the table above him rattles with Leatherface and Lefty's fight, he laments again that it's always the small businessman who gets it in the ass. When he reaches back to his ass and his hand comes away bloody, he concedes that it looks pretty bad, and he sure burned his beans bad on that one.
That, again, I was like, this is some humor I can...
The cook was cutting up at the end, I'm not going to lie. But the score is going wild when Stretch emerges from one of the pipes and climbs up onto a hanging bridge. Chop Top grabs a hold of the bridge and lifts himself up onto it, hot on Stretch's tail and cackling all the while. The chainsaw fight continues, the duel roars echoing, but when Lefty ducks a swing from Leatherface, he's able to stand back up and drive the chainsaw into Leatherface's gut. He screams as blood spreads on Leatherface's dress shirt. So we can talk about this gag very quickly. Bob Elmore did the stunts for Leatherface, and rest in peace. I think he passed away yesterday from when we're recording this. Awful. But they did a wraparound build for the chainsaw, like the old arrow in the head gag. Mm-hmm. Tom Savini said that Sean McEnroe, who worked on The Blob, An American Werewolf in London, Night of the Creeps, just a few things that we've covered, but a bunch of shit. He told Sean McEnroe that he was going to need a fake belly for Leatherface. So Tom Savini goes to the restroom. He said he's gone for 5 to 10 minutes. He comes back, and McEnroe has already sculpted it from water-based clay, and it was ready to be molded.
Wow.
Damn.
They also added chunks of latex for the flesh that's cut up when he's... But I wasn't expecting him to be gored.
No. For him to be disemboweled, I was like, how... I don't know anything about the further sequels.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But is this the end of Leatherface?
I don't know.
I thought the same thing. I was like, oh no, that's through him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how we survived that.
I don't know either.
Right.
Are there prequels instead? Like I don't know how this works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I know, do your thing, cuz.
That's gonna be a while.
Under the table, the cook decides that maybe it's time to shut down the show and pull the plug. He pulls Nubbins down from the table and begins to search him. Meanwhile, Lefty has driven that chainsaw clean through Leatherface's belly and the blade sticks out of his back. Leatherface screams in agony, shaking his head. A pretty cool score begins to play,
Yes.
and his grandpa gets up and wanders away. Lefty abandons his suspended chainsaw and grabs the two smaller ones. He double fists them and swings at Leatherface, and I will give Leatherface that he's holding his own for a man impaled by a chainsaw.
Yeah.
He's swinging back, hitting the chandelier above them and sending sparks raining down. But Grandpa is standing next to the table, raising the hammer defiantly. Under the table, the cook is still searching Nubbins for that little just-in-case baby before finally finding it in the corpse's shirt pocket. He holds the object of his search, a grenade. He muses that a man builds a good sturdy trade by hooking and crooking, then kaplooey. He pulls the pin, adding that the gods just kick him right in the balls, but not this time. Stretch staggers through a tunnel, only to be quickly tackled by Chop Top. The two roll around on the floor, and Chop Top gains the upper hand, straddling Stretch and strangling her, all while cackling wildly. But Stretch is able to kick him in the balls and scramble back. She grabs a lamp and crashes the bulb into his head, shattering it. But she continues driving the broken lamp against the metal plate in Chop Top's head. He thrashes as he's electrocuted. And when he goes limp, Stretch looks around. She finds a red exit sign next to a flight of stairs, and she runs up. Under the table, the cook holds the grenade, boasting that he's got the last laugh right here. As the fight between Lefty and Leatherface continues, Grandpa times his moment and throws the hammer, only for it to soar over Lefty and hit Leatherface right in the head. I was like, God, dude, that's the strength you've summoned.
Yes.
His last bit of energy spent, Grandpa falls backwards, but so does Leatherface, and the hungry blade of the screaming chainsaw cuts right through the table and into the cook. The cook screams in agony and drops the grenade. Meanwhile, Stretch is still climbing the flight of stairs, but Chop Top has made a very quick recovery and is right behind her now. As Stretch emerges in the daylight, we see that these stairs are put to the side of the amusement park's mountain. She kicks at Chop Top, but he stands his ground. It's not until he tries to lower a razor blade to her that she bites him and is able to jump on his back. She gnashes at his ear as he spins. He falls out onto a ledge and Stretch goes with him, pummeling Chop Top before jumping back onto the stairs. But as always, Chop Top is right behind. As the tense score rises, Chop Top slashes at her legs, but Stretch is finally able to kick him away, and when he collides against the railing, it breaks free, taking him with it as it swings. But Chop Top holds on, perilously dangling over the ground below. We do hear the explosion from the grenade as well.
Yeah, so is that all?
Yeah.
That was my question, because Lefty was down there.
He sure was.
And we did not see him again.
No.
Spoiler alert.
But Stretch has finally made it to the room at the top, where she pushes her way through a curtain made of bones. They clatter together when she rushes inside and finds a skeleton-littered room with something like a throne set up at the center of it. In this throne of bones sits a woman, long since gone, presumably. Her ribcage jutting through the remaining swell of her breasts, her mouth yawning and slack, the skin on her face dry and shriveled, her hair long and white. We press in on her face and Stretch gapes at this before raising her eyes to the hanging skeleton above, incorrectly assembled with its bony hands reaching down to the woman. But Chop Top climbs his way back onto the stairs and rushes to the room, announcing, "Here I come, you hog bitch." And when he enters the room through the curtain, he says again, "You hog bitch." The editing of this made me laugh out loud. It is very funny.
Yeah.
This is clearly pieced together
Yes.
from separate locations, separate days.
Separate everything. He warns that she's hit a dead end. He spins a mobile made of bones. The dangling bits are skulls with skeleton hands attached to the side to look like wings. They do look cool.
Yes.
Stretch holds her hands out, ready, but Chop Top screeches at her to look at his face. He grins, showcasing his awful teeth as he drags his razor across his own throat. He giggles that it's like death eating a cracker, isn't it? But Stretch doesn't respond. I don't know what that means.
No,
and Stretch doesn't respond either.
She's like, I don't know if it is.
Yeah.
Sure. She trembles, ready for the oncoming battle. But her eyes flit to the woman on the throne and to the chainsaw still clasped in her shriveled hand. That's convenient.
Yeah.
Chop Top's face falls and he cries out, "No!" He begs Stretch to get away from her, not to touch her. But Stretch rips the chainsaw free and a cloud of dust explodes from the woman. Chop Top mourns, "Grandma!"
So maybe Chainsaw Heaven is a physical place.
Oh, that's
Okay.
Chainsaw Heaven.
Yeah.
They did go up to see her.
They sure
Yeah.
did. Grandma!
Yes.
They sure did. That's another one.
Mm-hmm.
Stretch comes toward him, but Chop Top runs past her to tend to his grandmother, who is now twitching with movement. That's horrific.
I would like more on that, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw the bitch's ribs. Stretch watches this, ripping the chainsaw cord again and again to no avail. And when the decrepit woman falls still, Chop Top turns to her with renewed anguish. "You killed her, you hog bitch!" He jumps towards Stretch and slashes her back with his razor. But Stretch still pulls the cord, sobbing, until the chainsaw finally roars to life. Chop Top backs off now, but he just stands with his arms up, giving Stretch the opportunity to slash at his stomach and knock him back off the structure. Chop Top goes tumbling down, rolling back into the tunnel that led them to the surface, disappearing from sight.
A round of applause for that stunt man,
Yeah.
No shit, dude.
because
Yes.
that was full on the spine.
Yeah, it was.
That looked wild.
Mhm.
Yeah, but why did Chop Top let her do that?
Yeah, there was
really
a
just
lot
let it
of that. There, this little was a lot of waiting.
Well, I mean, his family
He's
exploded.
grieving.
Yeah.
He's grieving.
She just killed his grandmother, who I don't really know what's going on there.
Yeah.
So
Even,
maybe it was just like a sacrifice.
Yeah.
maybe. But even his slashes were kind of like not as.
Well, she's
know?
still wearing her jean jacket, so I don't know how much it hurt her. So
Yeah. Right. She still got a little armor left. It's
Yeah,
all
a
right,
little bit. But we watch from the outside as Stretch holds the chainsaw up and screams her triumph, spinning and whipping the weapon around in a dance reminiscent to Leatherface's own. It cuts to black and the credits roll. So, what did you guys think of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2?
So I'll be honest. I didn't love the ending. I didn't love the fight. I didn't like a lot of it. I think for me what happened here is that I don't care about any of these characters. There's not enough given to me for me to be like, "Oh, that is cool. Stretch is cool, but I don't really know anything about you other than you're a radio DJ." That's it. Lefty, I mean, you gave us a couple of things and then you were weird and then you came and to fight.
Yeah.
And then the Sawyer family, same thing. It was just really weird. I think by the time things get to the end and then everything's going and it's just like, oh, we're going to do this big battle. We got to escape them, whatever. I think by then, in all honesty, for me, I was already kind of annoyed at the movie. So I wasn't really able to enjoy like the climax. I wasn't able to enjoy that ending because the whole time I'm like, what is this? What are we doing? What story are you telling? What timeline of Leatherface or what version or what what is happening? Like, what is happening? I will say, and again, I know you said it earlier, T, everybody does give their all for these characters, and I do commend them, and I understand, all the hard work that goes into it. What was the direction given to these people? What was going on here that, like, Leatherface is he's hitting puberty and he likes girls now or something? He's like, I just don't understand the Sawyer family's quirky, and they're like, oh, we make chili and we the best food around, but it's human, don't tell anybody. I just don't understand what happened from the first movie to this. It's a very big shift, and I don't want to bring this up, but we did talk about it a little bit before with Megan and Megan 2.0. When you shift so much, I think, and I know they said that was the tonal shift of it. I think for me, I think this is the problem here too. The shift moving to, no, we're doing horror, to, oh, we're just going to fuck around and let everybody do what they want.
Yeah.
Which it feels like, which I'm sure that's not what happened, but the rewrites and the cutting and the editing and whatever, it really, really hurt this movie for me.
No, I definitely agree. I feel like the thing for me is how much people love this film.
Mm-hmm.
I legitimately feel bad that I don't like it, like, really at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed too.
Yeah. Because I've heard so much about it and its reputation, the cult status that it has. And the thing about it is, you know what? I totally understand how someone could watch this and love the hell out of it.
Yes.
But
yes.
it is just so aggressively not for me.
Mm-hmm.
I will say too, I think things would have been different if it was in the rotation when we were young.
True.
Maybe. And I even think maybe a little more push, because I don't mind so much the gonzo horror. Maybe if he would have turned those two chainsaws into nunchucks somehow or whatever, and then it'd been like, oh shit, if you're going to be that silly, fully lean into that shit. Don't just do it halfway or just a little bit. It just feels odd.
And I can agree with that. And that is because, the first one was just such a massive achievement in horror.
Yeah.
And so I understand the creators saying, you know what? Let's go a completely different way with it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to repeat what we did.
Right.
There's no way to reach those heights again. So let's try something different in this same world. That's commendable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the reasons that I loved the Texas Chainsaw Massacre are kind of the exact reasons why I don't like this film.
No, yeah.
And so you run the risk of that, I feel, and it is a very risky decision to make. I just don't think that for me, and it seems like JP.
Yeah. No, yes. I'm there with you.
Yes. And maybe Nay as well. That this risk just simply didn't pay off.
Right.
Not to say that there is nothing about this film that's worth praise.
Yeah.
Because there are several things that are worth that praise.
For
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Even from someone who didn't really care for it. But it just does not work for me, and I'm honestly pretty upset about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, I forgot to mention, but you using the term gonzo, it did remind me. There's a credit from a deleted scene for someone, their credit is Gonzo Moviegoer, and it's Joe Bob Briggs.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. I would have
so-
loved that.
Well, and I'm like, moviegoer, like what all was cut? What moviegoer? We didn't get any of that. You know what I mean?
Weren't Chop Top and the cook talking about going to the movies?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So
They probably
again, yeah, you're
That's-
leaving
Yeah.
That's really funny.
like in another version of the film. We did. We did go.
They did go to the But I think maybe that's what it is, that it could have been like this kind of like quirky and ridiculous day in the life kind of a thing. But I don't know. I just don't know, man. It just didn't. And it pains me, like you said, T, to say that I didn't really care for this, because there are elements here that I really like. There are people involved
Yes.
behind the scenes and on the screen that I really love and enjoy their work. I'm really bummed I went into this with a complete open mind, knowing that it was a huge tonal shift. That's really all I knew. And while there are aspects of it that I really do appreciate, I think most of the music is really, really good. I think the effects are incredible. I think that the performances are, say what you will about the characters, committed as fuck.
Yes.
That story's just not there. And I think that you feel the rewrites. You feel the dropped plot points.
Yeah.
You feel the missed character arcs and opportunities and earned moments of what remains of Lefty in this. He's useless.
Yeah.
There's no and again, Stretch, you have this self-assured, ambitious woman that's like, I want to do more than just DJ. I want to do something that matters.
Mm-hmm.
And you have her screaming and running for the last 45 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
There is no arc for her. Yeah, she gets free. She's doing the Leatherface dance. Cool. What happened to her having an illegitimate father?
Yeah.
True. And how does she know that dance?
Yeah, no shit. Where'd you see that?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm asking for too much and just wanting a cohesive story. And I understand that this did not need to reinvent the wheel. It didn't even need to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
I just wanted even a simple story. This is not cohesive to me. It feel like the pacing is wild. There are moments that just go on for so long. The bit with Grandpa and the hammer, it goes on forever.
Chop Top's recovery.
Yes.
Recovery.
We watch him use the whole health kit.
Yes.
He's wrapping his arm up. That, him stealing the records, all of that took a really long time.
But my thing as well, if the humor is hitting for you, you're loving it.
1000%.
No, yeah.
That's the thing.
And maybe that's what's missing. And I'm not gonna lie to you. The cook at the end, he was cracking me up a little bit.
He's like, looks bad.
But it's
That was great.
They burned my beans with that one. It took me until then to be like, now that's funny. Nothing else in this movie really hit for me like that. And it bums me out because Chop Top is such a fucking character. I think the cook is funny. We found him funny and ridiculous in the first one. And I love me some Leatherface. I love Leatherface. I think he is such a cool, quote unquote, villain because he is so nuanced and complicated. And I think that is really, really lost here.
Mm-hmm.
I understand him being like, no, and trying to save her and stuff like I get it. It's not lost on me, but I just feel like this is not, and he's humping his chainsaw. Like there's just so much going on that I just don't even, it's stressing me out.
Yeah.
It's stressing me out. I guess we can kind of just slide into ratings, which I've been dreading since we sat down, if I'm being completely honest. I love, if you love this movie, genuinely, not, I love that for you. Like, I love, because I see where the fun is.
Yes.
I just can't quite reach it for myself. So if you love this movie, I love that for you, and I love you very much. And thank you for making it to the end, even though you probably hate us now, because I really did enjoy this. But again, it's just, if I got to tell it, then I got to tell it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This did not do it for me. And it bums me out because as much as I did go into this with an open mind, I was really hoping to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a blank slate. This is probably going to be a lot of fun. And when he lurches up and he's got Nubbin strapped to him in the back of that truck, that looked fucking frightening. That looked like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Didn't love that it was Leatherface behind there, but I'm still buckled in. I'm still on board. I'm still waiting to see what happens. You cut that dude's head off. Yeah, this is a huge departure from the first one. I'm still in.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that meandering story. It's useless characters. It's dropped plot points. It's really missed opportunities to tell any kind of a story.
Yeah.
If this is the Saw's family, you know what I mean? If we're leaning in that direction where it's the Sawyer family and the family food truck and the family business and my brothers and blah, blah, blah. Like if we're doing the family thing, I would have liked to see that parallel with Stretch and Lefty, or even Lefty avenging his nephew. And where the hell is Sally?
Yeah. And
like all of it, I just don't, it doesn't work for me.
I think that's the thing is with the opening text crawl.
Yeah.
You expect this to be the reason for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of gets lost in the way that the film unfolds.
Yes.
Yeah.
We lose Lefty almost entirely.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just on these boards or whatever for like
my
half an
God,
hour.
Yeah. Oh,
You
no,
know?
yeah.
So
And you only hear it when you need to.
Right.
yeah, that's true.
So I just
And I don't know why the cook was blaming Chop Top for it when we've been together all fucking night. I just don't know, dude. I don't know. The weird sexual aspect with Leatherface doesn't work for me. Like it is mostly a miss for me. Like I said, I do really love the effects. I appreciate what they were trying to do here. And you know what? I love a swing. It didn't work for me, but God damn it, like that was a hell of a thing to do.
Yeah.
And I respect that. But on a scale from 1 to 10, frighteningly foul family food trucks. I know this sounds very low, but I've given all my reasons. There's nothing else I can do. I'm very sorry. I am giving the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, with all the love and respect in the world, 3.5 out of frighteningly foul family food trucks. I don't think I'll be returning to this. I was going to say maybe it's one that'll grow on me. I don't know that I'll give it the opportunity to. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
But again, I love you so much. If you love this movie, and if you hate it, I love you too. I'm not gonna yuck your yum. Don't yum my yuck. But I will now open up the floor to you.
I'll be brief. I think we've kind of already expressed how we feel.
Yeah.
I've said kind of how I felt. And I think it is just that, because I did, you know, like I said up top and before, I remember watching it as a kid, and I even had said, I hope when we do revisit this for the show, hopefully I do like it. Maybe I was just too young and I didn't understand.
Right.
But then I'll be 41 this year. I think I'm old enough to understand what's going on. And it still just, it didn't do it. The age didn't help.
If it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, no. But I can say honestly, like we've been saying, if you love this movie, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand. There's a movie too, I mean, that I love, that I know other people have been like, yeah, like, but I'm sure there's a very small of us that like that. A movie's fucking ridiculous. I know it. Your sisters told me it. I mean, it's very ridiculous. But I mean, so I get it. I like silly shit. It was for all the things you said, babe, all those reasons. It was the plot. I didn't care about these characters because you didn't give me anything to care about them. Lefty, again, yeah, he came in as the hero or whoever just to be forgotten about in the fucking cave standing on top of that table.
Exploded.
Yeah, exploded. Yeah. Well, we didn't see it, but we heard it.
Yeah.
He
That's
didn't
all
even get last words.
No.
No, nothing. I do understand her getting the chainsaw, coming back and like returning with, okay, I'm going to deal to you what you've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Cool. But again, like you said, the dance, why are you doing that? You didn't see that anywhere. You don't know anything about that. You're just like, your instincts was like, put it above your head and shake it. Like it is just weird. A lot of the stuff that went into the movie, but I do feel like it is one of those things, like you've said, T, if you watched it as a kid, you know what I mean, you'd like it. And I said it earlier, and I want to do a quick comparison. American Werewolf in Paris also had a cool song. Mouth was in there. This had that cool song.
Oingo Boingo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Gramps.
Couple cool songs.
Mhm.
Yeah. I like Leatherface. I like the werewolf in the American Werewolf series.
The PS2.
PS2.
Yeah, but not that one though. That one wasn't as successful. I do feel like, and I hate saying it because again, it's Leatherface's Texas Chainsaw. I do feel like for me, this movie is very close to a American Werewolf in Paris. I don't think I need to watch this again, and I think you're right. I don't think I will like it with repeat watchings. I think it is what it is. I watched it, I experienced it, I remembered what I remembered, and it's just kind of what it is. But again, if you like it, great. You know what I mean? And I would have loved to seen whatever Joe Bob was in. That would have been fucking great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Again, I know it wasn't anybody, that they could do. They rewrote, reshot, rescheduled. And
They did what they could.
Yeah. But for me, on a scale from 1 to 10, frighteningly foul family food trucks, I'm going to give Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 a 3 out of 10. Again, I don't know if I can go as low as Paris, but I kind of want to. I think if it wasn't for Leatherface, I probably would.
Right.
Mhm.
But it's, you know,
Right.
it's a movie.
And every movie's a miracle.
Yes. No, yes.
Let's get that straight.
Yes.
I don't think I can really add anything. I just, my thing is, look, sometimes a film, no matter how beloved it is,
Yeah.
just might not be your vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And I know that, just as you said, JP, and I know you're talking about Freaked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We all knew he was talking about.
If, I guarantee that I could talk to somebody who would say, you know what, Suspiria is like a 2 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
And I would be very shocked to hear it, but I'd respect it.
Right.
That's your opinion. That doesn't change my opinion that Suspiria is a 10 out of 10.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I am happy to have that discussion.
Yeah.
What didn't you like about it?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting to me.
Right.
So my rating? out of 10 frighteningly foul family food trucks, I'm going to give Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 a 3 frighteningly foul family food trucks out of 10 as well.
I was gonna go 2. I'll be completely honest, but like I said, if it wasn't for Leatherface, if he wasn't here, it would be a 2.
Right. And there are some moments that do work in their own way.
Yes. Oh no. Yeah. Definitely.
And there is some great work that went into this film. But the biggest thing for me, I'm never going to watch this again.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
no,
not.
No.
I'm just not.
You're not going back to Nomland?
No,
No.
we're staying here.
Yes.
Well, that's all from us at Pod Mortem. What would you rate the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and what should we watch next? Let us know on Instagram at the Pod Mortem. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and like our Stirhole Productions page on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Instagram and Blue Sky at Blood and Smoke, at Juggalo Daddy 84, and at Travis MWH. Thanks again to Original Cinematic for sponsoring this week's episode. Please consider pledging to our Patreon, where you'll get over 200 hours of bonus content, our monthly schedule, access to our Discord server, and the opportunity to help us decide which films to cover. And if you're looking for Pod Mortem and Stirhole Productions merch, follow the link in our episode notes. Stay tuned until after the music for a special shout out to our Wendigo Getter patrons. And remember, it's important to enter agreements with trustworthy people. If they're not, you may just be hung out to dry in ways you never saw coming. Until next time. Thank you for staying tuned for a special thank you to our Wendigo Getter patrons.
Woo, yeah.
Very good. Best singing all night. A special thank you to
Chris Ontiveros, Kristen Lofton, Megan Martinez, Kimberly Bass, Sophie Hodson, Anthony Jerome M., Jordan Nash, Kent Morton, Lala Tamez, Travis Anissa Hunter, Miguel Myers ATX, Jennifer Perez, Allison O'Neill, Carissa, TJ and Angie Bronson, Andy Teague, Applin Ontiveros, Karima Rhodes, Kimberly Kleindienst, Sydney Smith, Bobby Holmes, Donna Eason, JD Rezak, Molly Gerhard, Armand Spasto, Aaron Aguirre, Eggy, William Barry, Charity Oxner, Amanda Six, Mandy Rainwater, Eden, Jordan Roberts, Dylan, Liz Heath, Spencer Montavo, Pancake the Panda, John Ramos, Michael Newting, Alexis Roberts, Dan Laveau, Itzy M, Gary Horton, Kate Lamp, Carlos and Sydney, Jessica Hunter, Helena Rudder, Alan Johnston, Mariah, Livy Fun, Scott Troutman Wise, Towton Watson, Mozzie Bear, Dave Burke, Emma Hagel Kissinger, Valerie G, Emiliana, CB, Taylor Santana, Will Lewison, Angelique, Smelly Poo Poo Head, Beth Bauer, Cookie, Esperanza J, Jason Cow OKC, Joshua Rumley, Daniel Peralta, Brandon, Sawyer Reese Farr, Sahara, Girl That's Scary, Cassandra, Andrea Simmons, Ashley Higuera, William and Xena Rush, Ryan Brahm, Megan Ochoa, Laura Lassiter, Eileen O, Marissa E, Henry F, Megan M, Strangely Sarah, Christy Beck, Nancy and Andy, Amanda Lopez, Andy Terrell, Jason Hanavan, Erica Morin,
Tris Wynn, K.87, Mariah Jensen, Carrie A, Lonnie Lono, Powell, Kayla E, Maggie H, Murder Stina, Kristen Marcy, Ori81 Boricua, Look Like That One Girl, Bog Boy, Felnez 63, Alita Pui, Probably My Jugs, Kate Thackeray, Wade Pack, A Lizard, Bay J, Jay Rich, Topher Williams, Elena Metler, Valerie Kay, Christy Lee Kruger, Professor of Humanities Laura McCarricker, Naomi, Josh Smith, Autumn Green, Abby Kopp, Crystal 831, Skank Sinatra, Morgan Alexander, Tony Osteen, Julie Fredborg, Rihanna S., Daniel Taylor, Anna Kate, Heather Ortiz, Kim H., August, Vengeance Spirit, Jenny May, Glittery Fab, Malik Caselli Armstrong, Scarly D, Toya Shea, Katie, Martin Shaw, Star, Tyler J, Cam Davies, Patrick Hoagland, Raven, D, Wesley Tart, Kristen Jackson, Jacob Nordberg, Spencer, Samantha, Damian Grant, Half Price Horror, Clemmy, Nisi Nay, Erica, Jason X Rules, Karen Burrows, Aaron Norman, Stephen Rogers, Victoria Smith, Patricia A. Graham, Erasmo Pena, Danielle Wright, Tabitha Thomas, Richard Murray, Irene, Sally Slater 52, Jordan McCarthy, Christy Michelle Wilson, Rosalind Harnias, Emily Rance, Amy, Lisa and Kathy, Mike H.,
Christian Sadler, Hannah, Sarah Jack, Casey L., Evelyn Knight, Paula Garcia, Nikki M., Ghastly Grandad, Megan and Alexandra Saldivar, Lisa Sykes, Sunny Jonas, Kelsey Niemeyer Cook, The Face Flowers, JG, Morgan Novello, Ashley, Alex M., Brandon C., Gordon Sutherland, Georgia Renland, Ashley Poe, Najee P., Seth Schaff, Diana Joe, Connor Gormley, Carrie Parker, Katie Face, Jane Pillsbury, Caitlin Asher, Mia Franz, Pooh Bear, Spicy Caldera, This is the Zodiac Speaking, Jason the Ghost, Moldy Tic Tac, Brian Ward, Tanner Rutgers, Gremlin Keeper 22, Sam Spade 666, Veronica, Kristen Rhodes, Daniel Laurent, Carmito, TVR, A Very Sweepy Baby, Randy Tucker, Nicholas Rage, A Lazy Boy, Nicola Williams, Sadison Miles, Jasmine, Stu Corbett, Daniel Smith, Brick O, Pull Out Lebowski, Jaden Nicole, Jody Grody, Lost Fan 08, George L. Robertson, Mercedes X Bleeple, Joel Miller Apologist, Jaylene Perry, Cool Trainer Elijah, Mrs. Bloomingdale, Sierra Duncan, Claire Cantwell, Renee Hart, Meg Like Sleep, Final Boy, Alani, Nosferatu Dude, Elizabeth Thompson, and Joey. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all. We appreciate you.
We appreciate you all because thanks to you, the pod is family.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
All right. Yeah. That's another thing we can all agree on. Until next time.